Hey there, welcome back. Shubham this side. Now let's try to work on an assignment. Remember, this is an assignment and not a full-fledged project. That means I'm giving you all the information, or you can say a problem statement, and you need to design a website according to it. Not exactly a proper fully functional website, but just to deliver all the problem statement or the requirement that I'm going to mention. So you just need to clone this page. It's shoppingcart-ul.netlify.app, and there are few things that you need to use. You need to use React router to have some sort of multiple pages. You need to have a custom hook to update your title if you observe. Yep. You also need to have a proper structuring for your entire website. That means your component, your pages, then your CSS, everything should be done properly. And then you need to deploy it either on your Netlify or your Vercel. Also, one thing, you need to utilize your Git and GitHub skill for the deployment. You can take this entire thing as a problem statement. So basically there are 4 points: React router, custom hook, structuring, deployment. So you need to cover all 4 of them to deliver this assignment. Now one thing, we did all these topic already. We created a project already. Then why again? Well, I'm giving you this again because I want you to do this from basics on your own without my help. Yup, there is a solution with the current source code as well. You can look at it, but my recommendation is try to do it on your own. If you think you are not able to do, then watch the entire solution lecture. Otherwise, my recommendation is try to do it on your own, because during your freelancing journey or maybe internship or job journey, you will require to do certain small type of assignment for first round, maybe for second round, and you can take this as a small part of it. So you will get an idea how to design all of this, how to do this quickly, and how to build a habit about it. This is properly a simple project, just 2-page application, and you don't need to add any type of functionality. These buttons are not working. You just need to cover the 4 point: React router, custom hook, structuring, and deployment. That's it. And you can access all the images from the repository. So that's all, and I see you guys in the next one where we build this out. Hey there, welcome back. Shubham this side. Now let us start our journey with the current project. Here I created a shopmate folder, or I should say shopmate project inside my projects folder, and I removed all the unwanted stuff. I created a asset folder, added my logo, and also I've added all type of CSS that we are going to require inside our app and index.css. That is done. I also updated my favicons and added few images related to our shopping cart that we are going to require, something like these. Yep, they are all in a proper ratio, so I'm going to utilize that. So that's the base setup, and now let's focus on our requirement. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to create pages. That means there is a home page, then there is a card page. These are the 2 pages that I'm going to deal with, and then there will be component, like this is going to be our header component, and then this is going to be our card component for product card, and this is for cart card. So yeah, we need to work on that. Let me get here, get inside my source folder, have my first folder which is pages, and then have my second folder which is going to be components. That is done. Let me have my home.js, then I'm going to have my cart.js, and then remember I'm going to have my index.js. Now let me give them a basic setup. Let me save. This is done. Our page work is done. Then I need to focus on my components. So let me get here. Inside my component, I am going to create my header.js. Then I am going to create another one which is my card.js. Then I am going to have my product card. Looks awesome. Let me just have the base structure here as well. Let me close all of them, and I'm going to have my index.js. Great, and all I have to do is just export them. This is done. The other thing, okay, let me add some space. This is done. The other thing we need to focus on is we are going to have a hook, because that's literally the problem statement. So either we can follow a sequence, build the stuff, and then do all of this, or we know we are going to have this and we have all the information. So let's create a hooks folder. Inside this, I'm going to add use title.js, and let me do rafc, and yep, we are not going to do right now anything. We are just going to have this created. That's it. And then there will be routes, because we need to use React router. So let's have our routes folder. Inside this, I'm going to have my all routes.js. Let me have my base structure ready. And here things will be different, that we will be talking about in few minutes. Yeah, so that's the base folder structure. Now the next thing that we can focus on is dividing the CSS into multiple parts. For example, currently I have all of this. So this is for my header. I can use this, and then this products will be used on home page to have access to all these products together. But then there is product card that we can divide here, and later on we are going to have card page. This is for card page actually. If I jump here, this is for card page, and here this is for card. So what we can do is we can divide them. So let me have this a new file. I'm going to first have my header.css, then I'm going to create another one which is going to be my product card.css, then I'm going to have my card.css, and what I should do is I should have all of them divided. So this is for my header, then this will be products, and then product card. So I need to focus on product card basically. Take it, add it here, save. Then I have this for card page, and then card, yep. So let's take the card and paste it here. So I've divided for component, rest I'm going to keep them here only. So that is going to be for my products page, and this is going to be for my card page. That's it. If you think this is too much, like there is too much content for CSS, then divide them in for pages as well. But these are just 3 only, so I'm going to keep them as it is. That's it. The base structure is ready. Now we need to work on them quickly. So I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now let us move forward with our header section, or I should say component. Let me get here. The first thing is import my CSS, because now I have it. So all I have to do is just import it from our current directory only. Header.css, that's it. The other thing I need to do, I need to have a header part. So let me have it here. Let me have my header. Yep, inside this I'm going to have everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have link to the image as well as the span tag carrying the name, and then I'm going to have nav to handle both of them, and then I'm going to have a link for my card page. This is just manual coded, or I should say hand coded number. So let me get here, add link, and that will be from our React router DOM, and now we are just directly working with link, no a tags. Go with the import, then I will have link as well as nav link. The other thing I'm going to do is, and I'm going to import this from React router DOM. That's done, and get here. Now I just need to use my link. Inside this I am going to have my image that will require the import of logo. Okay, and then I'm going to have my span tag that is going to say shopping cart. Awesome. Let me import my image. Let's get here, go with my import. It will be logo, that will be from my assets slash logo.png, and let me add it here, and let me give it a name, shopmate logo. This is done. Now here I need to provide the path. It should be 2, but the problem is we haven't created the router. So after working with header, we need to create all our routers. After 2, what we are going to do, we are going to have a class name that is going to say logo. This is going to be the link path. Then I am going to have my nav. Inside this I just need to have my class name that is going to be navigation. And since we have our nav link now, I don't need to focus on anything else. I can directly go with my nav link and add all our menu item. Let's say home, and then the other one is going to be my cart. Awesome. Let's provide a 2, and this is going to be home, so it will be slash, and I just need to provide a class name that is going to be my link. Something similar I need to do with my cart page, and this time it is going to be cart, and same will be followed with class name. Then I just need to create another link that will take me to cart page. Okay, let's do that. I am going to have a link, and here I need to just add the span that is going to term as cart 2. Now this is going to take me to cart page, so let's say cart, and I am going to have class name which is going to say items. Awesome. Let me save, and we are going to get a lot of errors. Let me get here, refresh. Things are working fine, but it is not going to have any type of display. Why? We haven't added this header anywhere. Remember this small point. Okay, that's done. Now if I jump onto our page, refresh, you won't see any type of difference. Why? Because we just created a component. We haven't included it anywhere. Remember, we are loading index.js and app.js. That's it. So we need to load it somewhere. And before doing all of this, to use React Router DOM, we need to install it, right? Stop my server, and what I need to do? Install our React Router DOM. So let me stop the server, and then simply add the code npm install React Router DOM at 6. That's done. Let me restart my server now. Minimize this. It is going to reload my server. Yep, that's it. Till the time it's reloading, let me get into my index.js, and here I need to import it. Let's say import. What I need to import? Well, my browser router. So I'm going to say browser router as router. That will be from my React Router DOM. I'm also getting the suggestions now. Okay, let me copy this one, and here let me add it. This is done. Let me save. Now we have the power for React Router, and now we can work on our routes. So I'm going to get into my routes, and I'm going to quickly create 2 pages. So the first thing I need to do is import everything. So there will be import for my routes. Let's say routes route from React router DOM. The other thing is we just have two pages, so let me quickly import them. It will be about my home and then my cart, and that will be from pages, so I can just directly have pages. Awesome. Now inside this I'm going to just create fragments, so I'm going to have something like this, and here I am going to cover everything with my routes. So I'm going to have my routes here and just add two individual route, which is going to be, this should be self-closing. Remove this one, and here I just need to provide my path, which is slash for my home, then provide the element which is going to be the home. Let's say home component, and I just need to copy this one, add this here, and this is going to be cart, and this is going to be cart component. Remember, everything else will be inside this and this. So these are the two components that I require. Save. This is great. Now remember, we haven't included our route as well. So let's go to our app.js now, because both of them is ready. That is my routes and my header. Let me remove this h1, and I first need to import them. So I'm going to have my import here. The first thing I need to import is my header. That will be from my components, and that's it. And the other thing I need to import is my routes. So let's say all routes, that will be from route folder, and then all route pages. Yeah, this is great. Now I just need to add it here. So that will be header and then my all route. Looks good to me. We can also remove this, but then we need to add some fragment. We are not utilizing this class, to be honest, so if we want, we can remove this. Let me save, get back here. You can see this is the current structure. Now this page is for cart, this page is for home. Now if you see, we have some issue. You can see this is permanent, and if you remember, we discussed about this earlier as well. So if you get into your header.js, for this one we need to add end. Get here, you can see it's working fine. Awesome. So our header is done, our route is done, these two are perfect. Now let me quickly work on the individual pages. So here is our first page, that is going to be our home. So things should be easy. Let's see. Let me remove this and create a main, so I can have everything inside this. So what we need is, on our home page, I need a section that is going to create these product card. So I'm going to call this section as products, and each one of them will be individual product card. So that means we need to create a fake array and then map each element according to it. So let's do that. Let's say I have a section, I'm going to call it as products, and inside this I need to loop over and create our product card. So either I can design one card and then move towards our product card, do something like this, or I can just import product card directly and work on it. Let me give you an idea. Let's say I can import my product card here, that will be from my components, that's it, and let me add my product card here. That's it. Now let's work on product card and create a demo product. Currently we don't have anything, we just have message about product card because we are showing this. If I open my product card, we need to design stuff. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to have a div here, since this is a element, basically a card, and I'm going to provide a class name here. Let's call this as product card, so it's easy to remember. And then this card is going to have a image, then it is going to have a name, and then a div that is going to have p tag to demonstrate this price, and a button to demonstrate this add to cart. Let's do that. I'm going to have my image. I'm not going to add it right now. Let's wait for everything else. So I'm going to have a p tag, going to give it a class as name, and here I'm going to have a product name basically. Then I'm going to have another div and give it a class name as action. Inside this I'm going to have my price, and the other thing is I'm going to have button here. If we want to do something, we can add functionality to maybe just have a console log for our on click event. Now I'm going to say add to cart for this. This is fine. So what we want to do is we are going to have a product list. We map over them, send individual product information here in a loop, get here, access these information, and then give these information for image, for name and pricing. That's all. So that's the whole requirement. So let's do that now with both of them together. And remember about the image, we are going to use from assets inside public folder. So that means these are the image that we can directly access. So I can just go to my website domain /assets/images and then the image point. So if I need to give you a demo, if I get here, for example, this is my local host. If I go with / then I can go with my assets, then I can go with my images, and then I can just say 1001.png. So this is going to be my image path. Similarly, I have other images and I can access them inside my assets folder. Since this is public, so we can access it directly. Otherwise, these images cannot be accessed. We are going to use them in the form of some variable. Remember this point. Yep, so that's the first task. Now let me have proper space. What I'm going to do is I am going to create a product variable so I can loop over everything. So now let me add my product. Either I can create it manually, but I have already done that, so I can give you an idea. So this is the products. It's basically a variable, or I should say an array. And here I have 6 objects. That means my 6 product. Each one of them is going to have a unique ID, name, price, and image. Remember, I have provided the public path. That means these are in public folder, so it can be accessed directly through our domain name /assets, images, and the image name. That's it. That's the easiest way. I don't want to create a JSON server and do all this stuff because we got the idea how to use JSON. So this is a quick demo how we need to have our product whenever we are trying to practice. So that's it. We have our products ready. Remember one important point. This is JavaScript, not JSON. We have created a JavaScript array, and this is object, this is key, and this is value pair. Remember this point. Okay, that's done. So now I have our products. I can utilize my map and everything else. So I can have my products.map, and then I can provide all type of information and do all type of stuff. So inside this I'm going to have my product, and here what I'm going to do, I am going to call my product card, and I'm going to provide a prop which is product, and this is going to be product. Awesome. Now we can do one thing. Either we can provide ID here, we can fetch the ID, name, and images individually, or I'm just directly going to provide product here, get here, access the product prop directly here. So let's say product, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to destructure it. So I can have const, since this is going to be an object. Remember, here we are passing individual object, this first, then second, then third, and keep on following. So I'm going to have individual object here. So inside this I'm going to have ID, name, my price, and my image. So that is going to be my product. Yep, I've destructured it. Also I need to provide a key here. So let's say key, this is going to be product.id. Awesome. Get here, access to name. Great, I can just go with my name. Access to price. Awesome, let me go with my price. access to image. Awesome. Let me go with my image. Also I have access to name, so I can just provide the alt tag as my product name only. I don't require ID, so I can remove it. Let me save, get back here. Okay. Now why you think we have this problem? Just try to pause, or I think I should continue this in the next one where let's see what is the small mistake that we did. So thank you for following, and I see you guys in the next one. So have you got the problem? Well, we haven't included the CSS. Yeah, that's simple. So let me get here. All I have to do is just go with my import, and here I just need to include my product card.css. That's it. Let me save, get back here, and now you can compare with the demo. So we are missing the currency symbol. Let me get here and let me add it here. This is the currency symbol, not the JavaScript symbol. Get here. Awesome. These two are working fine. Now we need to focus on the card page, and that should be simple. All we need to do is get here onto the card page, and something similar will be happening here. We need to create a fake list of product that we need to show. In our case, there will be 2 products. We need to create a card. So let's do that. First, I'm simply going to import the card here. Let's say card from my component. That's it. Now I'm going to have a list of products that I want to show. It's just a fake list that we just used earlier as well. I just took 2 products. That's it. Now I just need to design some stuff. So all I have to do is get here, get into main, and inside main I'm going to have a section, and let's give it a class name which is going to be cart, and inside this I am going to have my h1 tag and then the card. So the h1 tag is going to just say my cart items. You can manually hand code it, or we have this so we can use its length. So I can just have something like products dot length. Let me save, and then I am going to have my card. Let me save, and currently this is empty. The other thing is I need to loop over to my products, and for each individual product I am going to create a card. Now we have the information, we did this multiple times, it will be easy. Just go with our products dot map, and then inside this I need to access the individual one. Let's say product, and here inside this I will be calling out my card and provide the information about my product. Awesome. Yeah, I also need to provide the key that is going to be product.id. This is great. That's done. Now I need to design my card. Let me open this one, and here all I have to do is first I need to import my CSS so I don't need to face any type of designing issue basically. Let me get here to my card.css. Once that is done, I need to access the information for my product. Once I have access to this object, I can just destructure it. I can just say const, and since it's an object, I can have access in the form of object. I'm going to have name, price, and image. That will be my product. Yeah. Since I don't need ID, otherwise I can also include the ID. Now I have access to each one of them. Now here what I'm going to do is I am going to have access to a div. Let me also give it a class name. Let's say card, and inside this I'm going to have my image. Then I'm simply going to have a p tag that is going to show me the name. That will be my product name. Then I'm going to have another p tag that will show me the price. Let's say product price. And then I'm simply going to have a button that is going to just say remove the product. If you visualize here, this is the image, then the product name, then the price, and then the remove. So behind the scenes CSS is included for all of them. That means there is a fixed width, height, and something like this. Also they are aligned at center. So let me add the information. Now I have everything. I have name, let me pass it here. Let's say name. Also for all tag, let me provide the name. Then I have price, let me add it here. This is going to be the price. Then I have image, let me add it here. This is going to be the image. Let me save, get back here, get to our page, get to our cart. Awesome, this looks great. Again we forget the currency symbol. Let me add it here. Let me save, get back here, and this is working fine. Awesome. So we have designed everything related to the component and pages. Our structure is done. Everything is working according to the React router. This is great. Now you can add basic functionality like for example console log to this button. So if I click on it, there is a console log. So basically I wanted to say we can have a on click event on this button that can say handle add, and on cart page I can have handle remove, something like this if I want. So that's it. Now the React router part is done. Our structuring part is done because we did pretty well. One thing is remaining is using our hook. So we can update the page name on our home as well as on our cart. So let's use our hook. It should be easy because we already did this earlier as well. So all I have to do is I am going to get a title here, and then I'm going to use my use effect to update my document.title. So let's use my use effect here. That's imported, and this is going to take a function, and then it is going to have a dependency. So let me take the title here, and the title will be the dependency. Inside this, what we are going to do is I'm going to use my document.title, and this will be equal to the title that we are getting, which is title that we are getting as our parameter. And then I'm going to have a straight line and then my website name. You can use dash, you can use slash, depending on different website. I'm trying to use all of them during our project. For one project I will be using slash, for other one I am using dash, and this one I'm using some straight line. Let's call this as shopping cart only, or if you want you can use the name shopmate. Let me save, and now I can utilize this use title. So if I need to call it here, I can call it here. Make sure to have it on top right now. Let's say import, that will be use title, that will be from my hooks, and then my use title. Awesome. Let me get here. I'm not going to store this in a variable because it is going to give us issue during the deployment part. Otherwise you need to use ESLint command to ignore your line. Now you just need to pass the title, and here I am just saying cart. So if I save this one on our cart page, we are passing this. It's get here, take this, get here, have this, and it's updated. Now every time we visit a new page, we are going to call this on the top, so this will be updated, and this is going to return null. If I get back here, now if I visit the cart page, you can see it's updated. Something similar I can do for my home page. So I can take this, get into my home, add it here on the top itself, and also let me import it. So let me copy this line, add it here, and that's done. So if I visit here, get into my home page, and okay, I did something wrong. Oh, I added the text cart. Okay, let me save, get back here. Home is now home, cart is now cart. Awesome. Now remember, like earlier, what we did is during route I can pass the information title here, and this should also work fine. So that's it. That's all about our project Shopmate. You can see everything is done that was required. We have our React router, custom hook, structuring. The deployment part is pending. So what we are going to do? Well, we are going to deploy this one. And where we are going to deploy? Netlify. So try to do it yourself. Otherwise, in the next lecture, let us try to do the deployment one. Hey there, welcome back. Now let's move towards deployment part where we just need to push our code to GitHub and then connect GitHub with Netlify. So the first thing I'm going to do is stop my server and then I'm going to jump onto GitHub, create a new repository. Let me call this as shopmate, and this is going to be public, and I'm going to create the repository. Once that is done, you remember you need to initiate the initial setup in your local system. Make sure you have Git installed and you have a proper GitHub account. So let's get here. So the first thing I need to do is just have Git init, that is going to initialize my Git inside my shopmate folder. Remember, you need to be inside shopmate. So let's do Git init. Once that is done, we have initialized this. Then do a simple command for git add, git commit, and then select our branch, add a remote repository and push it. So let's do that. Let's have git add. That's done. Then do git commit. I will be adding a message, project shopmate. That's done. Now before pushing, I need to just select my branch, which is going to be main. So let me add that. It is going to be git branch -m main. Once the branch is selected, I need to add the origin of my repository, which is going to be this shopmate.git. So I need to add this here. Once that is done, I can finally push all my code. So I can just say git push origin main. This is done. If I get here to my repository, if I refresh any type of stuff, you can see things are done. Let me get inside my source and you can see I have all my folders. Great. Now the next step, let me jump onto my Netlify. Click on add a new site, and here all I have to do is import an existing project. I need to select my GitHub. It is going to authorize, which is pre-authorized right now. And then here I can search my repo. Shopmate, let me press enter. This is the repository that I want to run. I have selected everything and I am just going to say deploy. Now this might take few minutes. The only thing we can do is wait. Now let me refresh this one. You can see this is working, and if I open this one, and that is going to be our project. Also, you can rename the project inside your domain setting and you will have option to edit it. Let me call it as shopmate-ul, something like this, and should be fine. Awesome. And I need to open this again with the new domain. Things are working fine. Get to my cart. Awesome. So that's how we are going to do deployment. Now you can see this time it was pretty fast because we had all the knowledge about Git, GitHub and the command, how to do all the stuff. That's it. Now in future, if you try to do any change, just push to GitHub, utilize the command for add, commit and push. That is done. So this was the first one, the initial setup. Now you can utilize these command and Netlify will auto detect the change and then build them. Yep, that's it. Our project is done and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now let's dive deep with an important topic, which is context API and reducers. Now this is an important topic because this gives us power to explore global state management and action on it. Now what I mean by global state and everything these terms, if you remember we talked about prop drilling and it's a problem. Suppose I have a tree That means I have app, then I have header, then I have other component, and then child of that component. So we basically have a tree, and if we want to pass certain information from top to bottom, it's a pain. You need to pass them as props and then keep on passing them to their child. That's basically prop drilling. If you can visualize, that will be the easiest part. Now to solve that prop drilling, we utilize these two concepts to store our state and perform complex tasks on them. So during the whole process, you will see hook like use context and use reducer. You will also see some big words, you will see long description here and there, a lot of things. So first thing I want to tell you before diving deep in this whole section, that we are going to take a different approach. Initially, we will understand the entire working, we will do everything practical on a proper project, and later on, by this whole proper practical implementation, we will automatically understand these terms. I have created a small guide of what we are going to do and what are these steps. So there are two important terms that we just need to understand, which is going to be use context and reducer. During the whole use case, we will also see the terms like context, reducer, action, and dispatch. You don't need to understand anything right now. I will be honest, just give me the entire section. I will explain you through practical examples. The problem with this topic is we are mixing too many things. Since they are used together, it's important to understand how they are linked and how to use them. And if I start talking about these jargon words like okay, dispatch is used with the reuse reducer, then if I before that you need to understand use reducer, but to work with the use reducer you also need to understand about context properly. So this entire thing cannot be explained, or I really don't want to explain with just with some example or diagram. I want to give you a demo and then work on the demo. So if you remember, we built this simple app. This is not working. If you remember, this is not working because we never added some type of functionality. That's where this context API and reducer come into picture. So what we can do now? So we have a state, let's call it as cart list, and every time I click on add to cart, the item is added to that cart list. So basically that cart list is a global state. Earlier we used to have state for a proper component only, a single component. It can be header, it can be a page, it can be a home page, or it can be a cart page. But now we have a global state where we can add and remove anytime. Now you can see all of this is done with the help of context and reducer. So this is a global state where I am adding all of these items. So that global state can handle our cart list. That global state can also handle all the information about the total amount, total value that we need to pay. That can store other stuff as well because it's global. So on any component, on any page, we can access that information. Now if I get onto the cart page, you can see I have access to all the components that are added to this cart. So these are the three elements, or I should say three product that I have added, and I also have access to the information about their total because we also created a state and I am calling it as total. Now if I remove this, my cart state is updated and my total state is updated. If I go back to home, you can see these two have the remove button, but this one gets back the add to cart button. So what I mean by this, explain in simple term. Yep. So now with the help of context API and reducer, we can have a global state. It's simple. Earlier we used to have component level state. Then if we want to pass it, we can pass it through our props. But now we have global level state, so we can use it directly inside our any component, basically inside our entire app. Now reducer, what is this? Why we need it? Well, to perform any type of action, any type of complex action, we use reducer. For example, here when I click on remove, I am basically performing an action which is remove from cart behind the scene. and I'm also performing an action that says okay, update the total. So if I get onto my cart page, when I click here, it remove the item from my cart list, which is my state. It also update my total. So I am performing two tasks, and wherever I am using the cart list state, it get updated automatically. For example, this was the length, it is updated. This is the length, it is updated. If I go to home, click on add to cart, this is updated. Get here, this is updated, this is updated, entire list is updated. So that's the demo. We already built the base version. We just need to integrate these two important things: context, reducer. And during this whole process, we are going to do a lot of stuff. You will understand the term like action, you will understand the term like dispatch, and I have also mentioned entire step-by-step process, so you don't have to worry much. We will follow things in a sequence as we move forward. I hope you got the idea. It's just a global state that can be accessed anywhere, and we can perform some complex task. Thank you for following, and in the next one, let's try to clone this project in a new folder and then update with a new functionality of reducers and context. Hey there, welcome back. Now let's start with the basic code. Either we can just utilize the old previous code that we had with our shopmate project, or we can create a new folder. I'm going to call this as shopmate cr, which is our context and reducer, and inside this I'm going to have all of this code. So I don't want to touch the shopmate folder, I'm going to initialize it from basics. So let's get it. I'm going to download the zip, or I can do a clone, but let's download the zip, will be easy for everyone. So just download it on your shopmate CR. I'm going to keep it. That is done. Let me extract it. And here, let me delete the zip. And also I'm going to take all the files, get into my shopmate CR, paste it here and remove this one. So basically my aim is to have all the files regarding my project inside this shopmate CR. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a CMD. So here I have my terminal. Now remember, we don't have a node project yet. First let me do a quick VS Code open. If you observe here, we don't have the node project, that means node module. So that means I don't have my React yet. If I try to run my server, let me do that. Let's say npm start. You will see that nothing worked because this React script is not recognized. Inside my folder, I don't have node module. So nothing is installed. Do I need to do create React app? Nope. All you need to do is just say npm install. And it will install all the dependencies that is required. Once I do that, it is going to create the node module, install everything here, and our project will be running in a minute. This is done. So now things are installed. If I want to run the server, I can say npm start. So that's how you install the file from GitHub, store it on your local repository, or I should say local desktop, local folder, and you do npm install, get the node package, and this is the base code that we are going to work on. Now currently we have everything as sample ready. So let me close this, we built this earlier and now we are going to utilize it. So this is the demo that we need to work on. Awesome. Before doing anything else, I need to get this button with our CSS. So all you have to do is get inside your, our server is running, okay. Get inside your source, get inside your component, your product card, and here at the end, just add your CSS for the button. That's it. So this is basically the CSS for our button, remove button. Let me save, get back here now. Now here we will have access to the CSS regarding this type of button. Earlier it was not there. So that's it. Now we can focus on our work, which is going to be related to context API and reducer. Before ending this lecture, let us do base structure. So I need to create a folder and I need to call it as context. And I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to call it as reducer. Now you will see calling this as reducers. That is also going to be fine during the time of import. Make sure you use the right term. Now inside this I am going to create a file. Basically I am going to store the information of my cart. So I am going to create a file calling it as cart context.js. Remember the terms should be capital case. It is C and C are capital. Now inside my reducer I am going to create a file which is known as cart reducer, and this is going to follow camel case, that means short, cart and then reducer. This is how things are followed with the naming part, and these both will be linked as we move forward. So here inside this we are going to create a context. We are going to define all type of method, what will happen when we click on add, when we click on remove, and we will also pass the value to all our app component. So that means if I have a cart list, I should be able to access it inside my pages, inside any page. Let's suppose inside my home, inside my cart, or any component inside my header, footer, anywhere. So that will be done everything inside my context. In reducers, I will mention that if I perform add to cart, what type of value I need to return. So I need to update everything that will be here. So this is going to be interesting. I hope you understand the part of structuring the folder. That's it. You get onto the GitHub, install the file, do npm install, get all the file, add the CSS code for our remove button, run our server, create these two folder, create these two files. That's it. Now in the next lecture, let us start working with our cart context. Thank you for following, and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now let us start our task with cart context. So the first thing I need to do is I need to create a initial state where I'm going to store all my stuff. So I'm going to say const, and this is going to be the initial state. I'm going to call it init state, or just say initial state. So I want this state to be by default state when a user visit our application. This is going to have two information, that is my cart list. Since we are going to add our product, that will be inside this list. It will be object with the image, ID, price, name, everything. The second thing I want to store is my total. So by default I am going to say it 0. So this is the initial state that I want when my user first visit on our website. Great, this is great. Now the second thing, I need to create a context so I can have that context everywhere. It can be any type of component, page, or anywhere. So for that we need to use create context and we need to import that. So this is by default now with React after version 16. So all I have to do is just import my create context from my React. That's it. And I'm going to create it here. That is going to be my const, and I'm going to call it as cart context. Now why cart context? Because this whole state I'm going to refer or store stuff related to my cart, which is going to be my cart list, and this will be my cart total. So this is cart context, and I'm going to go with my create context, and this is going to require the initial value, that is my initial state. Awesome, this is great. The basic is ready. Now we need to create a provider. The provider is going to cover any part where we can access all the value. So what we do is we create a provider and we wrap our app basically. So our app will be able to access all type of value. If you see that we wrapped this earlier with a router, our browser router, so that means our app is able to access all type of React router information. It can be utilizing the navigate, links and everything else. Similarly, we are going to wrap this app with our provider so our app can access value. What type of value? Our cart list value and our total value, and perform actions on them. So the next step is going to be working with our provider, or I should say create a provider. So how do we create a provider? Well, this is going to be simple. I'm going to have a const and I'm going to call it as cart provider, and this is going to be a function where we are going to return things and all of the stuff. So for now I'm just going to say return null for a moment. So this cart provider is going to do or get defined all this stuff. So that means if I am going to cover this with cart provider, let me do this for sample purpose. Let's say I have this here. So when I do this, my cart provider get access to this app as a child. Remember, if you are working with a component, you pass any type of information that will be passed to our component as a child. It is provider. Yeah. So this app will now be accessed to my provider as a child. Yup, that's how things are followed. Now here we are going to do lot of stuff. But before that, what I want to tell is what we return is basically the cart context provider wrapped with child. Let me explain. What we do here is we have this cart context now. So we utilize this cart context provider. That is the actual case. This is the wrapper that we created. But what is done by our context is we have this provider, the actual provider to be honest. So this is the provider and what we return is this child. So we get here, we pass this, and here we pass some value. Now currently the value is empty for us. So let me define a value here. Let's say const value. I know you are going to get confused. Just a minute, we will clear all the doubts, don't worry. Yeah, so this is the base structure that we are going to work. What we did is we created our own provider, we took the value, then we utilized the cart provider, the actual cart provider. We are returning this cart provider, we are returning certain values, and then we are returning this to child. So basically the app, which is the child here, will have access to all the values. Now values will have our entire state and all the methods that we are going to define. What I mean by this, here if you observe, if I talk about add, this is some content, this is accessed by my entire app. The total, it's a value, the length, it's a value, the object, it's a value. But there is not just value but function, like add to cart is a function, remove from cart is a function. So this value is going to have multiple things in this object. I hope you got the idea what we did. We can directly use this cart context provider here, but then we need to import value here and then we need to pass value here. So instead of that, what we did is we created our own provider. I hope you got the base idea. Just wait for the entire section so we understand everything step by step. So that's all about the provider part. We can use directly this here, but then we need to import the value. At this point of time, we are going to import the manual provider. So let's import that. Here I am going to import my cart provider which we created. That will be from our context / cart provider. Awesome. And I also need to export this. If I say export, let me save, get back here, You can see currently I don't have problem here. I don't have any type of error. What is happening is we are passing this, it gets to our cart context, it's get here, it get here. Whatever the value we have will be accessed by our children. Now let's try to do a demo value and try to see how we can have it. So before the demo value, I also need to define one more thing. Now this one more thing is going to be use cart. Basically we are going to create a function that will help all the component to access that information. So if I am inside my cart page, I can say use cart and it will give me power to use that cart with all the values. So if I am inside my component, let's say header or cart component, I will say use cart and it will have option to use the cart. Because we know we are providing this power to children, but children need to utilize use cart. So use cart, you can call it anything else, but and we are going to export this because it will be used with every component. So I'm going to say const and then there will be use cart. So this is going to be a function. Let me have this. So all I'm going to have is I'm going to create a context which will be utilized by everyone, and here we need to call use context. That is important. And this use accept a context object, the value returned from React dot create context and return the current context value as given by the nearest and everything. So we basically need to provide this cart context. Yep. And this function is going to return the context, basically context. Now you don't need to create this function. What you can do is you can directly return this, because ultimately we are doing the same. We are getting a return from this, storing in this context and then returning that context. So this use cart give us power to call and access all the values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a manual value and let's say total is 0. Okay. Now if I get into any component, I can access that value. Let's go to cart page and here add the total value. Now how I need to use that? Well, inside our cart page, I just need to first import that. Let's say my use cart. That will be from my context slash cart context. Awesome. Now whenever I call this, which is basically my use cart, it is going to return me all the value and I can destructure it. So currently I just have total. So I'm going to say use cart. I just need to call it. Now this is going to return me total because that is the only thing that I am returning inside my value. Here we will perform everything with our initial state, update our cart and do all this stuff and then provide to the value. So currently we just have only one. I am going to return the total. Now I have access to this total. I can perform anything and place it anywhere. For example, I can have my total here. Let me save, get back here, go to my cart page. You can see I'm printing 0. Let's try to provide any other value. Let's say here I provide 50. Let me save, go here. You can see now it's 50. And here I need to add a currency symbol. So it will be dollar. You can work with pound, rupee or any other currency. Now it is $50. So that's how we create something global. And now we can have access to this value information everywhere. I can add multiple other stuff. I can add cart list, but currently it's empty, so I'm not doing that, but I can provide a cart list as well. So that's how I'm going to work with my context. What I did, well, first I created initial value. That's great. I know that when a user visits the website, this is the initial value they should work with. Okay. Then I utilize my create context. So that means for one particular instance, since we are dealing with cart only, that means we are storing the information related to cart in our state. We are creating the context related to our cart with the initial value. That's great. Now this cart require information that what is the component or pages I need to provide information to. So we create a custom provider and utilize the cart context provider, pass all the value and provided the app. This is great. Now my cart knows that I need to apply over or I need to wrap my entire app. Maybe we don't want the entire app, maybe we want a particular component. So instead of covering this entire app inside our index, we can cover that particular component as well, but we want our entire app, so we can provide all the value. Then we created a custom method use cart. Why? So we can have access to all the information that we provided to our values. So if I want to access my total value, I can do that. Remember, we don't need this, to be honest. What we can do is on each page, on each component where we need to access the value, we can directly do this. It is going to return us all the values. But then we need to export our card context. Let me give this a value. Let me give you an idea. Let me comment this out. Okay, and let me try to export this. Export card context. Let me get here. Instead of use card, let's say cart context. Okay, I get this. Now instead of use cart, I am going to utilize my use context. Basically, I have imported it. I need to provide cart context. Yep, and it is going to return me the same thing. If I get back here, you can see it's still 50. Now why we give it a custom name, why we create this? Because currently we only have one context, cart context. Suppose you have two, maybe you have product context as well, maybe you have counter context as well, or maybe you are using anything else in your website or app. Then there is going to be multiple use context, use context, use context. You need to provide these type of context and it will get confusing. Suppose you are getting maybe you have this for counter, let's say counter, and then you have another one, maybe this is for filter, because yeah, there will be sorting and everything. So this is good returning something else, this is returning something else, and then you need to import all of them. Now this get confusing. Instead of this, why not just create a custom one with a name? Here I knew that this is cart, so it's easy. And here you don't even need to do like this. You can directly return use context, which will be directly a one line thing. Remember, so I can just go here and this will be a one line thing. So I hope you got the idea. Let me uncomment this. Let me remove the export. Let me get back here, undo all the changes. Yep, that's how we are going to deal with. And yep, that's how we are going to work here. And refresh, I still have access to this $50. So I hope you got the idea about context. I know this is confusing, but the steps are simple and their use case is also simple. We did a proper practical to pass our total. Now inside our cart provider, lot of method we need to define for add to cart, for remove from cart, update our total basically, and then pass all of them here inside our value so our entire app can access it. That's all for this one. Now in the next one, let us talk about our reducer as well as the insider thing, or I should say the inside working of this whole provider. Thank you for following and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now in the previous lecture, we completed our card context. Not exactly completed, but we understood the whole crux of cart context. Now we need to utilize cart reducer as well. Now things will be simple, to be honest. We just need to create a cart reducer and define all type of cases, that what we need to return with add to cart, remove to cart and update total. So if we have three cases, now there will be two information that will be available to us, that is state, the updated state. So we will have information about our cart list and total, updated information, and we will have action. So action will have two information type, that is when we say perform something, what we need to perform, that is information will be stored in type. We need to perform add to cart or remove cart or update, that information. And then there will be a payload. Payload is basically the value for that particular moment. So if I say add to cart, which product I need to add to cart, so the product information will be stored in a payload. We are going to explore all of this, don't worry. So let me just have this here. Let's say export, it is going to be const and it will be cart reducer. Let me define this, and it is going to have two things, state and action. I will explain everything again so you don't have to just jot it down. You will have them in your memory automatically. Now let me destruct my action. This is type and payload. Yep, and it will be through my action. So there will be certain type of cases that we need to handle. And let me use my switch so we can handle all of them. So we need to provide the type here, and then there will be multiple cases. So let's say I have certain case of add to cart, then I'm going to have a return value. So if we perform add to cart, what I need to return. Let me pause it here and move towards our cart context, so I can explain the other part where this cart reducer is going to be used. So when we are inside our cart context, we need to utilize use reducer. Yep. And this use reducer basically return two things, our state, that is going to have information of everything about our cart list, about our total, everything. And then dispatch. So dispatch is like set state but with more power. And here we need to just provide the value on which reducer I need to perform all of this. So I'm going to say cart reducer, and the other thing I need to provide is the initial state. Yep, I hope everything is imported. Yeah, let me save. So what we are doing is we are utilizing this use reducer, we are passing the cart reducer, and we are passing the initial state. What happened here is this is going to return us a state. Now this state is not just one state, it handles multiple state. Earlier we used to have only one state for one particular thing. It can be counter and then set counter. Now this state is basically multiple things, cart list, total, and we can have more things here. So this state can help us to handle all of this information. Now if I say state dot value or dot total, it will be 0 by default. Let's say state dot total. Here it is going to be the total value that I am going to pass to my children, and this is the state that we are going to use. So if I pass my cart list here inside my value, and let's say it will be state dot cart list. So this state is updated and it holds the current value. This is the initial value, but suppose I have 10 items in carts, this state is going to hold that 10 item along with the information. So this is the state that we need to work with. And then the dispatch. Now what is this dispatch? This dispatch is basically the method that we can apply on this state. Remember earlier we use counter and then set counter. Set counter can only perform one thing, that is to set a newer value to that particular counter. Remember? But now with dispatch we can perform anything that we are defining here. Yup, this whole case thing is utilized by dispatch. So if I say add to cart, this is the way we define stuff here. It should be capital with underscores. Then I'm going to leave it here right now. I'm just going to add multiple cases. Let's say I have other case which is going to be remove from cart, and we are going to return something. Don't worry, we will talk about it. Then I'm going to add third case. Let's say update total, and then we are going to return something, and the last thing I'm going to have a default value which is utilized to throw an error, to be honest. So I'm going to say throw new error, and I can say no case found in cart reducer. Let me save. Yep, we still need to return some value, but this is the whole thing. So dispatch give me power to call them. Remember, this is the state which handles multiple state indirectly. This is dispatch, which is a bigger version or powerful version of set state, set counter, something like that. Set movies, set products. So here dispatch can do lot more things, not just set. We can add one particular item, we can remove one particular item from our objects, we can perform other thing as well. So this is where dispatch come into picture. Awesome, this is great. Now we feel powerful. So what we can do? Well, the first thing we can do is we can define individual method here only, and inside these individual method we can say okay, do this, do that. We can then inside that we can utilize dispatch. So for example, I am going to provide const add to cart. This is an individual method, and here I am going to access a product that I want to add to cart, and inside this we will do that. So suppose from my product card, suppose this product card, I click on this button add to cart. I have access to my product information, ID, name, price and image, everything. So when I click on add to cart, I will pass that information directly to my add to cart method. I will say product, this is the product that I want to add to my cart. Okay, awesome. So I will update my state.cart list. Yep. So what I am going to do, I will have my state.cart list and I will concat. That means I'm just going to add it at the end. I will say concat and I will pass this product. Awesome. So this is going to return me an updated list, or I should say I will store this in an updated list. Const, and I'm going to say updated cart. So this is the updated cart, but remember we haven't utilized this dispatch till now. So our cart is not updated really. We just stored the updated information. Remember, this method is not going to update the state here. We just concatenated and created a new cart list. So how I am going to update it? Remember when we worked with use state, we had state and set state. Here we have dispatch. So we need to utilize the dispatch. Yep. And with dispatch, we need to pass a object. Why? Because this dispatch is usually hold two information, our type and our payload. Well, you will now realize why I was talking about all of this. So type is basically what we need to perform. We need to perform add to cart. So that is going to be the type here. Here I am going to say perform add to cart. Now payload is again going to be an object because we can pass multiple values. Currently we are just passing the information for cart. So I can just say products. What I am adding to cart. Here you can give any term. You can say product, products or any other term depending on you, because this is defined by us. So we are going to say products, and what I am going to say updated cart. Okay. So when I say dispatch, it is going to get into my cart reducer. It is going to say if the type that we are passing is available, we passed add to cart. We will get into the case of add to cart and we will update our entire stuff. So what I am going to do, I am going to return all the previous state, because state is not just one item, not just cart list, it is also the total. So here I am going to return everything and I am going to update my cart list. Now cart list. Now how I'm going to access the updated content? Well, I have my payload which I got. Remember, we passed the payload. Inside this we have product. So I can access this, which is dot products. Yup. So if I click on add to cart now, what it is going to do is, let me also save this. Yeah. So if I click on add to cart, because I have this method, if I click on add to cart, I am going to get this product information here. I am going to concatenate it with state, but we cannot edit this default state. So what we do is, I'm just going to have this old list, I should say array, old array. I add this product at the last of this array, and I create this updated cart list or cart, whatever you want to call, let's say cart list. I have this updated cart list. Now, if you remember, with use state, we had state and then set state. Similarly, here we have dispatch if we want to update any type of state value. So we call to dispatch, we say this is the type and this is the payload. Now you realize why we had these two information, state and action, to our cart. State is basically the current values that our state is holding, and action is basically the information that we are passing, which is our type and payload. So we destruct these two values. We have all the cases. We check if this is of type, whatever we are trying to say. If there is any case to that, it's okay. Otherwise, we are going to get into default. Fortunately, we had a case of add to cart. We return all the previous values plus the updated value to our cart list with the value of payload.products. Now one thing, you can call this as ABC, and here it will be ABC, because ultimately we are returning this payload as an object, and this is something like key value pair. So here we are calling to that particular key. I hope you got the idea. Now we are going to repeat this again. Don't worry, you just need to understand that how the flow is working. Rest terms and this dispatch and everything you will learn yourself as we move forward, but you just need to understand the flow so we can add other flow work as well. What I mean by other flow work? Well, now if I need to add remove from cart, let's say remove from cart, it should be easy. When I'm going to remove anything from cart, again I'm going to get an information from product. Why? Because suppose on my cart page, let me open that. Yep. Here suppose I click on this remove button, I'm going to call that function remove from cart, and I'm going to get the information for my product, which product I need to remove. Yep, I get the information that okay, I need to remove this particular product. So now again I have access to this state, so I can check my cart list and check if the product exists or not. I can filter out this stuff, create an updated list, and then I also have access to this dispatch. I can go to my remove cart and return the updated stuff, something similar. Let's do that. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to have my updated cart list. Okay, so I can access my state.cart list now. And here I am going to filter out stuff. How I am going to filter? Well, I am going to visit each product and I am going to check if the ID matches or not. If the ID match, I am not going to keep it. I am going to keep all the other products. So the one which we don't want will be left out. So what I am going to do, I am going to select the current product inside this cart list. So I'm just going to say current. If I have 10, I'm going to go from first, second, third, fourth and keep on following. Select the current product and match the ID, current.id. If they are equal, then it's a problem. I don't want to keep the equal one. This is going to return true and our updated cart will left with one product. That means the one which matches it. I want to keep the other 9. If I have 10, I want to keep the 9 which doesn't match the ID, and 1 will be left out. Yep. Now what I need to do, I need to call the dispatch to update my state. So this is going to have two information. Again, that will be my type. What is the type? Remove from cart. This should be exact. Remove from cart. Let me do that. And then I need to pass payload. This will be an object and it can have multiple information, but we are going to pass the product. So let's say products, and which is updated to updated card list. Let me save. Get here. Inside reduce, I will have access to everything. I want to keep everything as it is with my state, but I want to update my cart list with this particular type, and I just need to update my cart list with the value of payload dot products. Let me save, and that should be fine. Now I am going to remove this one for now, so we can work on update total in a while, but these two are okay. And now we can perform all type of method here. This is done. This looks fine to me, but this, the value we need to update, so our entire app can access all of this stuff. So we have total, we have cart. Now we need to provide add to cart to our entire app. Let's do that. Let's say add to cart. We also need to provide remove from cart to our entire product, or I should say app. Remove from cart. Let me save. Now let's do fun stuff. Let me try to open product card. Let me arrange this. Yeah. So now remember we have use card, so we can access all of this. So now inside my product card, what I'm going to do is I am going to utilize my use cart and access all these methods. Let's do that here. I'm going to get into my import. I'm going to utilize my use cart. That will be from context / cart context. Now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to access them. I will have access to individual one. Let's say I want access to cart list, or just say add to cart method. That will be from my use cart. That's it. Now I have access to this method, so that means here I can call it. Let's say on click, that means on click of this button I can call this add to cart and I can provide this product information. Let's do that. On click, call this add to cart and provide the product. Awesome. And let's do console. So not just this, let's remove this. Let's have handle add. So we can add multiple line of code. Let's say I have a function handle add. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to call this, that's for sure. Let's do product, but I'm also going to access the cart list. Let's say cart list, and here I am going to console log the cart list. Console log my cart list. Let me save. Now if I get here, a use reducer is not defined on this page. I need to import this. Let me add it here. Let me save, get back here. Yeah, so if I get to home, if I click on inspect, jump onto my console, if I click on add to cart, it's empty. Click on add to cart. Now we have the product, so it's visible. So that means I am able to add product. Awesome. Now let me get back to my VS Code. So here that means I am able to work around with this add to cart. This is great. All I have to do right now is I can now remove this handle add, and I have the power to add to cart and provide this product information. Awesome. Similarly on my cart, I have the power to delete it with a click only. On click, I can just call. First I need to import it. Basically it's something similar. Instead of add to cart, it will be remove from cart. I don't need cart list here. I also don't need cart list here. So I have power of remove to cart, and I just need to provide the product here. That's it. So that's how this is going to work. Pretty simple, to be honest. If we look at larger picture, I don't need to pass prop to each one of them, capture the prop. Nope, I have access to all these methods wherever I want in one case. Also here I am just using one of them. I have access to all of these values. So this is great. There will be certain conditions that we need to add, and we will be talking about them in the next one. But that's the whole bigger picture of context and reducer together. Let me give you a quick revision what we did. So we created a reducer in which we get access to two information, which is our state and our action. Now what about these two information? Well, state is going to have access to all the updated information, the last updated basically. So we have about all the things that our state should hold in our app, which will be total and cart list, for example, right now. So our state holds that information, and whenever we call this, we also have a action that is going to have type and payload. Type is basically what we are trying to perform. Payload is basically the updated information that we are updating. In our case, this was cart list. But all of this is hard to understand unless and until we understand this part. So use reducer basically take the initial state, or as well as it take the cart reducer, whatever we need to inform in terms of method that we need to perform and everything. Why? Because in return this give us the access to all type of state content, as well as the superpower version of set state. Now we are not just setting that state, but we are defining what exact type we need to set for and what will be the value. So we define custom function, we take the input, or I should say argument at the time of calling them, and we take them here as a parameter. We perform certain step inside to get customized updated value, I should say. We call the dispatch. Now dispatch will be called whenever we want to update any stuff, and we pass type, we pass payload. Whenever we call dispatch, we get here inside our reducer, we check the type. If it's available here, great. Suppose it was add to cart, we keep everything and also update the cart list with the updated value that we passed. Now this name can be anything else also, we just need to provide it here. This all is done, and this will be accessed by everywhere because we added this in value, and value is passed to our provider, so our app is able to access it everywhere. So that's the whole part. Now we can define other method. So we defined remove from cart, updated our list, provided the dispatch, and that's done. So that's all. Now in the next one, let us also talk about how to update total and update our entire app with these method, value, state, and update it. For example, here inside header, I need to update cart list dot length, so I can have the exact number of the product like this here. You can see. Now inside that cart, I need to access the total, I need to access the length, as well as I need to get all the product and convert them into individual card. On here on my home page, I also need to check if my product is in cart, then I need to show remove, otherwise I need to show add to cart. So there are a few tasks that are remaining, and that we will be doing in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now let's talk about how we are going to get final total for our cart list. So suppose we have this cart list. If I get here, I need the final total here. How we are going to do that? We are going to have multiple item in our cart list. Either what we can do is we can access our state.cart list and then access the price of individual product in our list and then calculate and show it here. This can be one way, but we every time we update our cart list we need to update this as well. So what we need to do? Well, we can create a method and we can call it every time we update our cart. So we update our cart at the time of adding and we update our cart at the time of removing. So what we can do? Well, we can have a function, let's say update total. Yep, it is going to get the cart list. So I'm going to say products and it is going to start our count. Let's say total equals to 0. Remember, this time I'm using let. Why? Because I'm going to update this. This is not constant, this will be updated. So let's say I have this total, and what I'm going to do, whatever the products I'm getting as a parameter, I'm going to access them. This is products and I'm going to visit each one of them, each individual item. Let's say for each, inside this I will access the individual item. This is product, remember this is singular, and once I access this individual item I am going to update my total, this total. So what will be the total? Total is going to be total equals to total plus product dot price. So what we are going to do here, we start our total with 0 plus, suppose I have these three items, these three, 1 2 3 in my cart list. Let me get here. So what we are going to do, we are going to start with total equals to 0 plus my price list for product 149. Then in the next loop, because it's for each, it will be 149 plus my next one 49. Then in the next one it will be 198 plus my 179. So total it will be 337 in the third loop. That will be my total. So we can utilize for each. Yep, that is going to work. And once we have the updated price, what we are going to do? Well, we are going to call our dispatch and update everything. So let's say I have this dispatch. Again, it is going to define the type, and we haven't defined the type in our cart reducer. We need to do that. Let's say update underscore total, and the second thing we need to pass, which is going to be payload. Again, this payload is going to be an object and it will be total and total. I'm going to call it total only. Since these are two same term, I can use the shorthand method. So let me save. Now also define it here. Let me get the case here. Case, it is going to be update underscore total. Now what we need to return this time with my total? So all the state item is going to remain same, and I just need to update my total. So I'm going to say total and this will be payload dot total. This is great. Now when we are going to call this, because we are not going to call this manually. For example, add to cart is called manually by us when we click on the button. Remove from cart is called manually from us when we click on the button. When we need to call total, well, after adding the item our state is updated. So here we added our item, everything related to dispatch. Here we updated our list. So what we can do is we can call our updated total here with the updated list, because this is the same list that we are passing here and updating our state, because this is the same list that we are passing here. So that means we can update it here exactly the same way we can update it after removing the item. So this is the updated list. So that means When we click on remove from cart, I will get here. Suppose I have 10 item, I will filter out the 9 item where my ID don't match. I will keep these 9 item here. I will call the total as well as dispatch. So total is going to recalculate all the stuff. Total is going to have the information here. Instead of this, you can also call this after dispatch. That will make more sense, but totally our own requirement, because ultimately we need to perform both of them. Now let me save. What if I jump here, try to perform anything? Our total is not going to be updated because we need to access the total on our cart page. Yep, you need to visit cart page here, and inside this we need to access Now let's test out on our website. So if I visit here, you can see it's 0. Why? Well, because the calculation of total will be performed when we add or remove. It's currently not updated. So even if I refresh, nothing will be updated here. Why? Because total will be calculated only on add and remove. Now if I add any item, it will be updated. So this list is not updated. Remember, this is not the list, actual list, but the total is updated because we are just demonstrating total on our page. If I jump onto my cart page, we are just demonstrating total. So let me also access my cart list here, cart list, and what I'm going to do, just do a console log here, console.log, and let's say my cart list, it should be comma. Let's have this, let's have a console log here. Let me save, get back here, get into my inspect console. So these are the 3 items for my total. Item 0th, which is 149, then item first, which is 39, then item second, which is 199. So the total is 387. Now I have access to this cart list. Instead of using this random product list, I don't need to use that. What I can do, I can utilize this cart list and show the map for individual product. Also the length can be for my cart list now. I don't need a hand coded list now. So if I save this one, get back here, you can see these are the 3 items in my cart list. I also have inside my card, I have remove. So that means this is updated. Everything is updated here. And get back here, add, go to my cart list. These are the 3 items. If I click on remove, things are working. Now what I need to do, jump onto my header and also update this cart list. Let's do that. Get into my header. How I'm going to do that? Well, I only need access to my cart list. So let's say const, and I need cart list from equals to my use cart, and I just need to import that use cart. It's there, and now I have access to this. I can just say cart list dot length. If I save, get back here, currently it's 0, get back, click on add to cart, it's 2, add to cart, it's 3, go to my cart, this is updated one. If I remove 149, 1 cart. If I remove, this is 0, this is 0, this is 0. So now we are not doing prop drilling, we are directly accessing all the information, and this looks fun, to be honest. Now one thing is remaining, which is when I click on add to cart, I don't want this add to cart button after one addition. So how I can control this? Well, I can add a condition inside my product card. I can check if this product is already in my cart, then show remove from cart, something like this. So every time I load this whole product, I'm going to check this. So I'm going to say use effect here. So this is going to take a function, and also some dependencies which we'll be talking about in a minute. Now what we need to do, we need to check if my product is in cart or not. So I'm going to check if product is in cart or not. How to check that? Well, we will have access to our cart list. Let's say cart list. So I'm going to access this cart list. I'm going to find it. Well, I'm just checking if this is available in my cart list or not. If yes, then I'm going to get true. Otherwise, I'm going to get false. So I'm going to have access to the individual products inside this. And I am going to check if the individual product, I should say element here. Otherwise, well, the scope for this is only this, but I have already a term like here. So I am going to say cart item. Cart item. So the individual cart item, I'm going to check if the cart item here is equals to my product.id, or I can directly fetch my ID here and then I can just check ID. Here I'm checking cart.id is equals to my product ID, the product that I'm currently testing. So if this is equal, that means if we find this, we are going to return true. If this is true, then show remove button. Otherwise, by default, it's add to cart button. I am going to have a state const. I'm going to say is in cart and then set is in cart. That will be a proper use state case. By default it's false, and if we find this product in cart, then we are going to make it true, otherwise it's false. So I'm going to have a condition: if we find this product in cart true, then we will set is in cart to true. Else this is false only. So let's say set in cart is false. Looks good to me. This condition is easy. Now use state, when we are working inside our component, then use state is best. Now here I can add a condition that is ternary operator, and I can check is in cart is true, then I need to show the remove button, otherwise I need to show the add button. Let's take this, let's add this here and the remove button here. So this will say remove and this will be remove from cart. Now remove from cart, and I need to import this one from my where use cart. Let me arrange this add to cart after my cart list, so I have a sync. Let me save. Okay, awesome. Now if I give you a quick revision what we did, but before that let me check if this is working or not. Get here, refresh, no product in cart. If I click on add to cart, okay, this is not working. Oh, we haven't added dependency, so by default it's false and we are not updating when we change the cart. So what we need to do is we need to check whenever our cart list is updated or not. So our cart list is updated, we are going to update the stuff. Also I am using ID inside this. This might give me a warning. Let me save. Let me check. Dependency missing for ID. I need to add this. So let me add my ID. Let me save. Check. It's successful. Okay, now let's save. Get here. Now I can see this remove. So I need to add a class here. Class name remove. So this is red. Now you can see this is red. Add to cart. Add to cart. Okay, let me refresh. Everything is gone. Add to cart, go to my cart. These are the two. Remove, working fine. Go to my home, add to cart. Go, this is the total. These are the three items. Remove. get here, add to cart, remove, add to cart, remove, add to cart, go to cart, home, remove, and that's it. So I hope you got the idea what we just did. So we already have all the method and function defined inside use cart. We access the cart list, access remove to cart, and access add to cart. Now here what we just did. Well, to have this remove button functionality, we first need to check if this individual product is in my cart list or not. And we need to check this every time for each individual one. So what we did is we utilize a use effect and we checked if inside my cart list that we are accessing from use cart, if inside this cart list, if I find my current product ID equals to the cart list item ID, if this is equal, that means this is going to return true. That means my product is in cart. Now here I need to add a condition. If product is in cart, then show remove, otherwise show add. How to do that? Well, we can create a component state with is in cart, set is in cart. If my product is in cart, then set it to true, otherwise false. And we are utilizing this here. This is in cart here. If this is true, show remove button, otherwise add. That was simple. To have a different button, I added class as remove. Now the other thing is this use effect only rerun or re-render when we change our cart list. So if I update my cart, that means if I say add, this should be updated. This button should be, this condition should be updated because now add should be gone and remove should be visible. So we need to have a cart list and also the ID because it's a external dependency. So we need to add that. So that's how we have the functionality for this button as well. Okay, that's done. The entire project is done. Now in the next one, let's talk about things in terms of definitions, in terms of theory, in terms of official languages that we have. Till now we did everything practical and I hope you understand how practical is working, because now if I say to add any other specific functionality, you can do that. You understand that you need to create a context and you need to have initial value, you need to create your context, you need to have a provider that will have all the individual method, you need to pass these values into your provider that will be accessed by your child, there is a use state, you also understand that these are the method. So I hope you understand everything now, and you cannot understand things in one go. It will be happen when you practice yourself, you will get every practical idea. But now let's talk about in definitions, like what you will define a dispatch. For me, dispatch is simple. It is a form of set state, but it is more powerful. We can provide a custom type that what I need to perform, and I can provide a custom payload, or I should say a value that will be performed with the help of my reducer. This is not an official definition, but that's how dispatch is going to work. So in the next one, let us try to understand the official terms and see how we can explore that. I hope you got the entire practical flow, and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now in this one, let us talk about the official term as well as deploy our project on Netlify. It's optional, we now understand how to do that. So it's just basic practice. Now if you jump onto the terms, these are the terms. We have context, reducer, action, use context, use reducer, and dispatch. Well, what is context? It's an API given by React that allow us to pass information to child component without using props. Well, what we mean by context is this create context that takes some initial state value, and this also give us access to a provider where we can pass the current updated value to our child. So this is basically the context that allow passing information to child component without prop. Now you will see the term use context. Well, it's a hook that allow function component to take advantage of context API. What I mean by this is this use context help us to access all the information. Here we customized use context to use cart and then utilize this use cart to access this information. If you remember, we also utilize use context here instead of use cart. Ultimately, use cart is just the return of use context here. If you observe, this returns context and we return this. It's basically the data, to be honest. And here we are accessing, we are calling this, it is returning the data. Basically the values. Now here we have a reducer, which is basically a pure function accepting a state and action returning a new state. So if I talk about this, here this is a reducer which accept state and action and it return a new state. So what we do is we try to map different type of cases and return updated state. So here for example we are updating our cart list. If you observe here we are updating our total for different type. Remember, then we have action. So it's an object literal which describe a change to state. Now change to state, what I mean by this? Well, action hold two information. What type of information I need to change and what is the new information or what is the new value. So the type is add to cart, remove from cart or update total, and what is the new value which is carrying with my payload. Now we already covered use context. Then there is use reducer, a React hook used in place of use state, generally for more complex state. What I mean by this? If you observe here, we utilize use reducer, it return state and set it in basic term. This state is going to have multiple information and then this is dispatch which can perform multiple things. What multiple things? Well, for that we have provided cart reducer and this initial state is for our state. So this cart reducer is going to hold multiple type of dispatch method. Remember, it's not just set state, it's basically more, not just set counter or set movies, set product. It's more than that. We can perform custom things together. Awesome. So this is basic use of use reducer. Then we have dispatch, a function returned to us by use reducer. Yup, that's the exact thing. Which send action object to reducer function. Yeah, so this help us to send the action object to reducer. This is the action object. Why action object? Because it holds type and payload. If you observe here, this is the action, this is type and payload that we are trying to send from our dispatch. So that's the whole term game at basic level. Now if you jump onto the official React documentation, you will get the idea that they first talk about prop dealing. We understood that we are passing information on trees, for example from our app to header, then to other element child like maybe product list page, then product card page, and keep on following. So there is alternative method and then they start discussing about all of this context, that we can create a context, pass some information and then it can be accessed everywhere. Later they talk about how we can use the provider, pass the value and cover the child. Remember here they are covering a smaller section, that means level context. But we were covering the entire app, so we can have information access to entire app. If you observe here, we covered the entire app, so that means our value will be accessed everywhere. If we want to cover only one two component, we can do that. Maybe we want to just cover headers, we can do that. So they described everything here. Later on, they also described about use context, which is a React hook that help us to read and subscribe to context. Now what does read means? Well, we get here, since we named it as use cart, so we read the information which is total and cart list, and we also subscribe this. What I mean by this is, if this cart list is updated, the value will be updated automatically. This is the basic meaning. So suppose if I am here, if I click here, this is also updated automatically. I'm not using a use effect to update this, it's automatic update. Remember this point, not just here, also here. So if I remove this, this is updated. So it's basically auto updated. I'm not using a use effect for them. Awesome. Then they talk about the how to utilize this use case, and they also talk about how to have providers. So they have theme context provider for a single form, and this is a great way to utilize level context. That means you are just covering the form. So they took other example as well. We have already covered this. We took the best example of cart because that's the most used one in real life. Now here they talk about the use reducer, where we need to pass reducer, we need to pass initial argument, it return a state and dispatch and all the other things. They also talk about the logic that we already covered. Something like this function which is handle add task, and then all of this handle change task, then all of this. So that's how things are going to work. Remember, these functions that we defined don't need to be just in here. We can have on reducer and then import them, but then it will be just increasing the complexity. This is the easiest way to sort them, because at the end of the day we need to carry them in value and then provide it here. It doesn't make sense to store them somewhere else and get it them here. So this all of this is important because this dispatch can be called because of reducer only. That's how things are going to work. Now remember, on refresh everything will be gone. Why? Because we are not storing any stuff. If I refresh, things are gone. Either we store stuff in our initial state with local storage. If you remember, with use state we did that for our theme, for add to cart or anything else. So if we want, we need to store stuff in local storage. That's all. Now let me just push to our new repository. Let's create that. Let's say shop mate cr, which is basically context and reducer. And I'm going to click on create repository. And then I have my file ready. I just need to get inside my shopmate project. And also let me stop my server, get back here, and all I have to do is first initialize the git repository. That is done. Then I just need to add everything. This is done. If you get a warning again, make sure to utilize this command. Once my add is done, all I have to do is push a commit message. Let's say git commit -m. It's integrating context and reducer. Now I'm going to select the branch. Let's say git branch -m main. Then I just need to add my repository which I just created, which is this. Let me do that. That's done. Now I just need to push to main. So let's do that. Let's say git push origin main. That's done. Now if I get here, refresh, I have all my files. This is great. The other thing I need to do, I need to get here, import an existing project. Just authorize this again. Now I can search it. So I have my shopmate cr. Get here, pass the name, press enter. I will have access to my repository, and let me try to deploy the site. Get into domain setting, try to update the name. Let's say shopmate cr.-ul. That should be better. I should have named my repository as shopmate cr only, but it's okay. It's deployed. Let me refresh. Get into site overview. It's still in progress. Now let me refresh this one. Now, so it's done. Let me open this one. Yeah, it's working. So this is the version of context and reducer. and it's working fine. One thing you can do is update the title so you know the difference the previous one and this one. So this is with context and reducer. You can either change the name to CR cart or add a title. That would be much better. So let me get here, close this, get here. Inside my header I can update this to CR cart, that is context and reducer cart, or maybe update the page title depending on us. Because we have access to that on our home, I can update the page title here. So all you have to do, update, then push all the changes again, git add, git commit, git push. That's done. I hope you got the idea. Hope you had great journey. Just make sure you understand the flow, make sure you understand the practical use case, and everything will be fine with context and reducer. Thank you for following, and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now in this lecture, I am going to cover Redux in simple term, talk about some basics. In the next lecture, we will dive deep with everything. Take this one as an introduction lecture. So what is this and why we require it? Well, it's an open source JavaScript library. That means we can use it with any JavaScript application. It's not for React only. We can use Redux with Vue, with Angular, or with any other JavaScript app. So it's a JavaScript library. That's the most important thing. Now you might be thinking, well, why we need it? If you know that when we work with use state, we get into prop drilling if we want to pass certain information from one component to other. We took an example earlier as well, but let's visualize this again. Maybe we have a cart list, and every time we add some product in our cart, we need that information on our header as well as on different other places. We need it on our cart page, we need it on our product page, as well as on product card itself, that if this particular product is inside the cart or not. Let me take an example. Here, suppose I have an app. If I click on add to cart, now at this point of time, this header currently holds the information that this product is on cart or not. This product card currently have information that if this is inside cart or not, because they can show if it's in cart, show remove, otherwise show add to cart. The cart page hold information if this product is inside cart or not. And then there is cart card. So there are a lot of components that need this information, and we are passing this information through prop drilling. How about we use a centralized way? A centralized way to store data, to share it, so it can stay consistent and we can perform certain tasks on it. Now what I mean by this centralized data that stay consistent, suppose I added another product in cart, and if I remove this here, my header is updated along with my home page is updated, along with my product card is updated. So it's consistent. That means information is consistent on every single component. If I remove this here on the product card, I can go to my cart page and this is gone because the information is consistent. And here you can also understand that we can perform different type of actions on it. For example, this is add, and I can perform a remove one. I can perform add here, and then I can perform remove here. So there are multiple type of actions that I can perform, which is for our cart it was add and remove, but maybe I'm working with a theme, then it can be toggle the theme from multiple option. It can be dark, light, or something else. Maybe I'm working with locations, so I need to store multiple locations all at once. It can be counter, so I will have increment, decrement, something like this. So there are multiple actions that we want to perform on our state. And the best with Redux is everything is consistent on each component. So I can access them and perform any type of action anywhere. Awesome. The next important thing with Redux is that it comes with a proper handy tool, which we are going to utilize in a while. We call this as Redux Dev Tool. So if I get into inspect and then Redux, Here you will see this tool and it store all our information. We use it to debug everything. You can see currently I have a state with my application. I can add, and once I add, my total is updated. Now this is the information that is stored here. If I add another item, you will see I have two items. You will see how we work with each individual part. You can access the chart, you will have information about each stage and each process. So this tool is going to help us a lot. Okay, this is great. So Redux is basically a JavaScript library. How we are going to utilize it with React? Well, for that, if you scroll down, you will see React Redux and Redux Toolkit. React Redux is basically a library that helps us to utilize this power of Redux, and Redux Toolkit is basically a way to write these logic. Well, don't worry, we are going to explore everything in detail. You just need to understand that we need to install React Redux and Redux Toolkit. After the installation, we will create certain files and utilize them. Okay, this is great. That means I can utilize Redux with our React using Redux Toolkit and React Redux, right? Yep, that's how we are going to work with it. Now the next thing, how this whole process work. Well, let's take an example. Let's take this example on our example app as well as through visualization. So everything flow in a proper way. The first step starts with you, or I should say component, where this whole process start. We start with action creator. That means we have this application, we try to create an action. It can be add, it can be remove, any type of action. Suppose if I click on this add to cart, here I created an action. If you see, this action currently hold two information, my type and my payload. Well, what are they? Well, this action type is basically what I am doing. I am doing a add call to my cart. You will understand more about this once we start writing code, but here you can see it's a type which is calling add to our cart. That is great. So this is action part 1. Then here we have part 2, that is the second thing inside our action, which is payload. Well, what is this? Well, payload is basically the information that we are carrying. Why we need information? Well, here you just clicked on add to cart. That means you need this product information so you can add to cart. Well, this payload carry that information, that this is the product ID, this is the name, this is the price of that product, and this is the image. That means we take this information and carry with our payload. So we can move forward in our next stage. Now what is the next stage? Well, this action of add along with payload should be dispatched. Well, yep, this is an important word, dispatch. We use dispatch to send action to update the data. Here we are carrying the payload. So we utilize dispatch, we call the add along with the information of payload. This is great. Along with the information of our product. Okay, awesome. Now where this information goes? Well, this information goes to reducer, where we have defined what add is going to do, what remove is going to do, and it now have access to our action which we just provided. It also have access to previous state. So it can add this to our previous state, or if we click on remove, it will remove that from that state. What I mean by this? Well, let's visualize this. If I refresh, click on add, and if I click on this state, here we have this state. So whenever I click on that add, we perform all the action stuff, we perform the dispatch stuff, we now get into our reducer and we update this cart list. So they now have access to the previous information and they added this new information. If I add another one, so they have access to this previous information and they have updated the new one. That means reducer manages the state like this cart list and returns the updated state, that is this updated one. So it holds the previous one as well as perform all the tasks if it is add or delete, and then returns the updated one. This is awesome. Now where it is going to return? Well, it is going to return to our central storage. This is our central storage basically, where we have all the updated information. So our central storage is going to have this information. Now remember, this central storage hold a subscription model. What is this model? That means since it's a central storage, everywhere we use this storage, it's get updated automatically if we add, remove or update anything. That means if I remove this, since it's a central storage, this is updated, our cart page is updated. If I remove this this is updated, and our home page is updated. So the subscription actually updates all our component. So that's how the flow works. We have a component, or I should say the action creator, that help us to create action which hold two information, type and payload. We utilize dispatch to send action and update the data. We go to reducer where everything is defined, what add is going to do, what remove is going to do. Remember, this reducer also hold information about our action and state. So that means if I'm adding anything, it already have access to previous state and it will add the data that we are sharing. If we are saying remove, then it will remove that data because it already have that information. Once this process is done, it is going to update our central store, and central store is going to update all our subscription. So basically these all are the component which is utilizing these subscription. And that's how we are following the flow of React Redux. What is this toolkit? Well, it's a standard way to write our Redux logic. What I mean by this? Well, things were complicated with Redux, as well as if you have knowledge about context API and reducers, Redux toolkit simplifies everything. They divide things into slices and then there is a central storage. The central storage, or I should say store.js, is going to handle all these slices. So if you are working with cart, you will have cart slice. If you are working with location, you will have location slice. If you are working with theme, you will have theme slice. And all of this will be connected to our store. Later on, this store will be accessed by our entire app. How? Well, we are going to wrap our entire app, I should say the app component, with our provider, and we are going to provide this store. That will help us to have all of this. Now before moving forward, I want to give you a quick understanding about the code. Well, I'm showing you the code beforehand so you understand things, so you visualize things better. Now if I just get into index.js, here you can see I have covered the entire app with a provider and I am passing this store. So that means this store will be accessed over our entire app. Now what is this store? Well, this is handling my state. That means my app will be able to access my cart list as well as my total, because currently I hold this total everywhere. So that's how this thing is going to work. Now remember, we are going to utilize React Redux certain place for imports because certain hooks are utilized from React Redux. Then we are going to utilize toolkit to have our entire setup related to configuration. That's where this toolkit make our life easy. So you will see this toolkit at many places. I hope you got the idea. So in simple words, you are going to see terms like action, that is going to hold your information about type, and payload. The payload is basically the product that you are going to work with or the information that you are passing right now. So for example, if you say add to cart here, the payload for this is this particular product, this Sony. And then you are going to see the term like reducer. Well, we use reducer to manage our state and to return updated state. What I mean by this, if you see, we have a reducer. Here we have some action that we need to perform. It can be add or remove. And at the end, we return the updated state after performing all the action. Remember, here we have access to the action. Remember, this hold information about our previous state and action. So we have access to this previous state and then we can perform certain task on it and return the updated one. And we have action, so that means if it's add we are going to perform that, if it's remove we are going to perform that, and we also hold payload. That's how this action is going to be utilized. Now once all of this is done, all of this task is done, we are going to share or export this through a cart reducer to our store. Now if I get here, this is where this cart reducer is utilizing as a central storage path. Now this store, if you observe this store is later is shared to our entire application. That means our subscription is ready. So our entire app can utilize it. That's all. That's everything you should know about Redux. Now from the next lecture, we are going to perform everything in a practical way, dive deep, write everything, define everything, and understand how things are connected to each other. Remember, this lecture was just an overview. If you get the basics, it's great. Otherwise, we are going to understand things as we move forward from next one. So don't worry much about this. Make sure you understand the basics. Thank you for following and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Shobham this side. And now let us start our journey with Redux. What is this and why we need it? Well, the simple answer is it is a state management tool, or I should say library, that help us to manage all our state at one place so we can access them on any component, on any page, and perform certain tasks, or I should say actions. If you already have information about what is context and reducer, then Redux will be a piece of cake for you. It's almost similar but with certain advantages. One thing you need to remember that we need to install Redux separately. It's not pre-installed with React. So the first thing we need to understand is what we are going to do with Redux. Well, I'm going to take a common example. Here we have e-commerce application, or I should say a simple shopping cart. And what we want to do is when we do add to cart, there is a state which is going to hold these elements, which is my cart list state, and I'm going to store these information. And there will be also a total state that is going to store the total amount. If I get here on my cart, you can see I'm displaying my total amount and both of these products. That is basically stored in my cart list state. Now if I remove them, we are performing action to remove them. So basically when I click on add, it's a action. When I get here, click on remove, it's an action. So add and remove is basically action for my whole program. So I hope you got the idea. We have state like cart list and total that we can access on all component and pages. And then we have certain action that we can perform. Something like add to cart or remove from cart. I know this is pretty simple to define, but as soon as we dive deep, things will get complicated. One thing I need to mention right now is make sure you install this extension, which is Redux DevTools. This is going to help us a lot for visualization. That's the basic idea. If you know context and reducer, this should be easy. It's almost similar. Now what we are going to do? Well, we are going to start with a basic application which doesn't have this functionality. This is not working. So we have this pre-designed UI that we did during an assignment. So this is ready. All we need to do is get from our GitHub repo. Let me just download this in our folder. So I have this folder called shopmate-redux and I'm going to unzip everything here. Let me get it here, take all the files and get inside my shopmate redux, and then I'm going to delete both of them. Yep, so all my project files are here, and as you can see we don't have node module. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my command prompt here, and this is here. Let me close all of this, get my folder again, get my cmd again, And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say npm install. So this is going to install all the packages and everything. But before that, let me just open my VS Code. Yep, so this is my VS Code and let me do npm install. Once that is done, we also need to install certain packages, which is basically our React Redux. And then we also need to install the toolkit. This is going to be the official website. If you just jump onto the tutorial, you will get entire information and guide. They recommend a website called React.js.org, and here you can also get into the tutorial part and you will get a lot of information. What is the prerequisite, exact definition of everything that you require, and certain example. Now it's a state management, so you will see that we utilize useState, but instead of that we can utilize Redux. We will define everything, don't worry. We are going to work with all of this, the type and payload and all of this stuff. So yep, I hope the installation part is done. Okay, this is installed. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to focus on the Redux installation. My Redux is done, and then my toolkit. Okay, all of this is done. Now I can either start my server here, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to close this. Yep, so I have a base structure here. So I should run this npm start, so I can see how my base structure looks right now. Okay, so this kit is of no use right now, and this is the base structure that we are going to work with. That means we need to create something like this where we have this functionality. And I'm going to get here with my base structure, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simply change the name. So I'm just going to have a Redux cart as my name. That should be pretty simple. Get into my src, get into my component header, and here I just need to add Redux cart. Okay, get here. Yeah, this is much better. Now before moving forward, let me do the folder structure. So everything is going to remain same, but we are going to create a new folder and we are going to call it as store. Yep, you heard it right. That is going to be store. Now inside this there will be two files. First one is going to be the slice and the second one is going to be the store. Now slice is going to be something that is going to store the initial stage, something where we are going to define all our action, that if we want to perform add, if we want to perform remove, everything will be defined in a slice. And then there will be a store file where we need to register that. So there will be multiple slice and there will be single store. What I mean by this, suppose you need to store information and actions related to your cart list. Then you are going to create a file which you are going to call as cart slice.js. Then maybe you are going to have another one which is going to store information related to your addresses or something like this, or location. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this as location slice.js. Now this is going to hold all the information and all the experiment that we are going to do related to our cart state. Similarly, this is going to hold everything related to our location state. And then there is going to be store.js. That is going to be the main, where our main configuration is going to work. We are going to import all of the content here and then configure it here. So there will be a configuration store that is going to take everything and that will be passed to all our component. Okay. So let me close this, let me get into my cart slice and I'm going to remove this. Yep, so that's the base structure. I hope you got the idea. Now again, one thing I need to clearly mention, that we are not going to focus on jargons, but first we are going to understand how to implement this, the practical implementation, everything through a practical flow. We will understand entire flow. We will understand how to use the required hooks. Once that is done, we will then move towards jargons. Something similar I did during our context and reducer part. So I have all the definitions ready. If you want, you can jump onto them. But right now, these are just going to feel like jargons. Like, what is the slice? A slice is a collection of Redux reducer logic action for a single feature in your app. So this might sound easy to some. This might sound pretty difficult to some. We don't want to get into this. We just want to understand how to use our Redux and then later on understand each term as well. So that's all for this one. In the next one, let us focus on this slice and store and create our state as well as actions related to our cart. So we can have something like this add, something like this remove, as well as just if I have some add, I can view them, I can remove them with a total. Thank you for following and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now let us start our task with slice. So I have this cart slice and the first thing I need to do is I need to create a slice. So basically I'm going to have const and I'm going to create a cart slice. Now this will be created using a function called create slice. Yep, we need to access this from our React.js/toolkit. Now if you observe this, it's a function that accepts our initial state, an object of reducers and a slice name. Now what I mean by this is we need to provide name to this entire thing, which we are going to call it as cart. Now later on we will visualize that why we are calling it cart, because if I say perform addition, we will have information that we are performing to cart. Otherwise it will be impossible to have information about this whole process. So we give it a name. If you have a location slice, we are going to name it as location. So it's easy to handle basically. So we need to provide a name, initial state of this whole process. So for example, with initial state, I'm going to have a cart list as empty list and then I'm going to have total as 0. Then third thing, if you remember here, it is saying that you need a reducer. Now what is this reducer? Well, reducer is going to have multiple methods. Now here with reducers, we just need to pass on the methods that we want. It can be addition, removal, and then define what we are going to do with addition. What we need to do, we need to update our state, add a product, and when we are talking about remove, we need to remove the product. And you will have access to your state and other information. So let's create it and then try to understand in depth. So let me create this create slice and then we need to pass the object that is going to have name. Let's say name as cart. Let me open this up so it's easy to pass everything. Yeah. So I'm going to have my name. The second thing, I'm going to have my initial state. So let's say initial state. And again the initial state, it will be an object because we are going to hold two information. That will be my cart list and that will be empty. And the second thing is going to be my total. That is going to be 0. Awesome, that's done. The third thing is going to be my reducers and this is going to be object itself. And then here I just need to pass all my add, remove and everything else. So for example, I'm going to have add. Yep, it's properly a function. Then I'm going to have a remove. Again, this is going to be properly a function. Then if I have anything else, I can do that. Now remember, this currently have access to two things. That is going to be my current state, whatever the state that we are in that particular position. So suppose I have 0 item in cart, then this state is going to have this, the initial one, whenever we load our application. So this is the initial state. But suppose we added 1 item, then at that moment it is 0. Inside this add, we will update the state to 1 with 1 item. Suppose then we add another one. So the state is going to hold 1 and then inside that we will add another one. The other one is going to have action. So action basically holds two information, a type and payload. Type is which action we need to perform, and payload is going to be the information that we pass. Suppose we call add to a particular product. Suppose we call add here. So this is going to hold the information of that product. If I give you live representation here, get into my Redux here, let me clear all of this. Don't look at the other things, but just visualize this. When I click on add, so this is the action, this is the type, which is cart/add. So cart is basically this, add is basically this, and payload is going to be the information that we are providing. When we click on this, we are providing the information for this product, which is ID1, name, price, and all of this. So this is going to have information inside our action. Awesome. Okay, let's keep everything here. We will add all the logic later on. That's done. Now what else? Well, now we can access these individual information. What I mean by this, so I can have access to add and remove separately. I'm just destructuring it, and I can have access them with the help of, I can just go cart slice. Yep, this slice, and I can go with actions. Yep. So this is going to return us an object which is going to have information about our add and remove. Yep. Now I can export them and I can use them anywhere. For example, if I need to use this information on my product card or my card, I can use them. That is going to be done from here. And then we need to pass reducer from here to my store so I can register it. Yep. So I'm going to have export, and from here let's say const, and I'm going to have cart reducer that I'm going to get from my cart slice dot reducer. Yeah. So this is the reducer that we need to register, or I should say configure inside our store. So that's the initial step. What we need to do, first we need to create a cart slice, pass the name for this particular slice, provide the initial state, and reducer, which is going to be you can call this as a function that help us to inform that what are the type of process that we can perform on our state. Okay, great. Then we need to access all the method that we can perform. So well, we need this add and remove that we can get from actions, and we are exporting so we can use it anywhere. We also need to register all of this to our store, so we can use cart slice dot reducer, store it, and then we are going to register it. Now remember one thing, usually what happen is you don't have an object, you basically store one thing. For example, you can store just an array, and this is for your cart list, this entire thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a object, and then I'm going to access them individually. You will see me doing state.cartlist, state.total. Otherwise what you can do is you can remove this, you can have this just for single thing like cart list. So whenever you say state, it will be this default. But right now we need to say state.cartlist to access this, state.total to access this. Okay, let me save this. Let me get onto my store. Now store is simple. We first need to import something like configure store. So you will have configure store from your toolkit, and then you also need to import the reducer, this one. So let me import my cart reducer, that will be from my cart slice. Awesome. Now what I need to do, I just need to create a store. I am going to say const store. Now it is going to get a response. Now I am going to store certain information. Basically I am going to utilize this configure store, this method, and this is going to return all the information about our state, so we can access this later. So what I am going to do is I am going to just provide all the information within an object. So I am going to provide information about my reducer here, and we can supply multiple reducer, not just cart reducer but multiple reducer. So I'm going to create a cart state here, and I'm going to say cart reducer. Now if you have location, you can create a location state here and provide its reducer. You can have other state as well, and you can provide all of them. I'm just providing one. So it's like a central storage point or central configuration point for all our slices. Now this is something that we need to provide to our entire app. At this point of time, we are just playing with these two files. We haven't connected it with our app, and which component can access it, which component cannot. We need to configure that. So I'm going to export this store so I can access it anywhere. You can directly use export here if you want. Let's say export, and let me remove this. Now how our app is going to access this, or how our app is going to know that we have something like this? Well, that's simple. All we have to do is get into our index.js and cover our entire app with a provider. Yep, you heard it right. So you need to import a provider. Let's get here, let's go with import, and here you are going to have provider that will be from React Redux. Now this provider is going to wrap everything, your entire part where you might need this particular store. Yep, we are going to pass that. So let me create this provider here, and let me take this, let me pass it. So this is going to work as a child for our provider, and here I just need to pass information which is going to be my store, and this will be store that we need to import. Let's say import store from excuse me, what we just did? Well, what we did is we created this central configuration file that holds all our information. Now we have a provider which is going to cover our entire application, and we are providing a value that can be stored everywhere. Now if you observe this store currently holds our state, that is our cart state, that currently have two information, total as well as cart list. Total is going to be basically the number, the final number of prices. So if I add two product of $10, then it will be 10 plus 10, $20. And cart is basically the two product that we are going to store, all their information. So store is basically that value, and now our entire app can access that value. Yep, you heard it right. Now every time I need to use that value, I can use anywhere inside our app. So if I open my app, it can be accessed by a header as well as all the router. If I get here, it can be accessed by my home as well as cart. So every part of my app now can access the store information. Okay, so that means, can they access this add and remove? Well, yes, they can access these method as well. So that's first stage where we configure our cart slice, our store and our index. Now there are chances that you do have lot of doubt that why we are doing this, why not? Well, I will answer them as we move forward. But here, let me give you a demo. Let me refresh this one. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on add here. So you can see, so we perform something. It's basically a method that we call, which is add, and we are inside our cart. That means we are in this cart slice. This name is cart, and we perform the method add. Now here we provided the information, which is type, which was our add. So that means it is going to get inside this one because the type is add, and here the payload is this information. So now I can access the payload here if I want. So that means if I do console log my action.payload, I am going to get the information of a product whenever I am going to click it. But remember, we haven't added this to our product yet. We just now have access to this method and all of this state inside our component, but we haven't used it yet. We need to add this to our let's say product card. We need to add this on click, that we need to call this method and do that. or do this. So we need to call that, but I hope you got the idea that this is what happening behind the scene. Now if you talk about the state part, we call this as cart state, basically this one. If you get into the store, you have this cart state. Now basically this reducer is giving us access to this state. So if I open this right now, it is okay. I have added one element. Let me remove this. Yeah, so if you get into this state, so by default the initial one currently holds cart list, which is empty, and total, which is empty. So this is the basic one, the initial one, which we are storing here in cart state. Now remember, people usually call this as cart as well as this as cart. So it's fine, but currently since it's a tutorial, I am going to mention this as cart state. So it's easy for you to remember that here is the state and here is the name of this particular slice part. Okay, so if I get back here, let me add a product again. So if I, okay, let me get into the state part. So if I get into the state here, now I have added the product. So my state is updated with cart list. Now have one item and my total is also updated. So that's how this state is going to work. Now if I show you in the form of chart, this is how it look. Currently we have a state. Inside this we have cart state. Now cart state have two object, my cart list and then its object 1. If I add another one, if I get here to this step, now you can see there are 2 items. And if I show you that this is the state that we are working with. If I create another one, let's say location state, it will be here, the new child. State.cart state is going to give us access to this. Then .cart list will give us access to this. I hope you got the idea. Now what if we don't want this total? We can do one more stuff. We can remove this. We can just have this empty state. Yep. So now this is going to work like an empty state and we can treat it as our entire just product saving cart list. I hope you got the idea. Now let me refresh this once again. Yeah, so this is empty right now. Let me squeeze this. Let me add an item. Get here, select this one, get into tree, remove this item, get here and select my action here. You can see type is cart and remove. I know I stretched this lecture too much, but I hope you got the idea how the entire process is working. The other aim is how to use this state and how to utilize these add and remove method. That we'll be discussing in the next one. Thank you for following and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now our entire app currently have access to the store. That means all my state as well as action. Let's do some fun stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is, how about accessing this add method and calling it to add an item? Well, let's try that. Let me get into a product card, basically this part, and let's try to add to cart method. So here I need access to my add. Well, let's do that. Let me get here. Let me get import and I'm going to have my add, remove. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have from, and all I have to do is just go with my store / my cart slice. Yep. So I have access to this add. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call it. So let me get here on click. Basically I'm going to create a function and I'm going to call this add and I'm going to pass a payload. What is this payload? Well, basically the product that we need to add in our cart. Let me pass this product. Let me save, get here, try to get here. Let's see if I get an error. If I click on add, well, I don't know if it's added or not. Let me get into my Redux. If I click on add, nothing is working or I don't see anything. Why? Well, for that we need to utilize a hook which is called as use dispatch. Let's do that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get here, get my import ready, and here I'm going to have use dispatch from my React Redux. and here I'm going to access it, let's say const, that will be my dispatch, and here I'm just going to call this use dispatch. So it is going to return a dispatch function that can help us to call all these methods. Let's say dispatch. Let's take this. Now whenever I need to call anything, I need to cover it with dispatch. If I save this one, get back here, refresh. Now if I click on add to cart, you can see I am able to add to cart. This is add, and here payload is this. But my state should be empty right now. Why? Because inside this add to cart we did nothing, but we added a console. So let's see my console. I have this. This is the payload that we are getting. So that means when I pass this product inside my add, it get here inside my action inside payload. So if I do action.payload, I get access to that product. Okay, this is great. One thing I need to understand is to call any type of method, I need to utilize a dispatch. And to use this dispatch, I need to first call a hook that give me access to this method. I hope you got the idea. You can call this anything else, but it's common to call it as dispatch. Awesome, now we can add it. But the problem is, once my product is added, I need to remove it. But before that, I need a cart list. I need to perform something here. Something actual. Right now I'm just calling this, and if I get here inside my Redux, my state is not updated. If I refresh, I get into action, everything is empty. Let me add, and here I perform this. Now I know that I have performed this. I perform add, and this is the information that I passed inside my payload. But if I get into my state is still empty. So what I'm going to do, inside this I'm going to add some method. So what I need to do is I just need to update my cart list first. Later on we will talk about total, but I need to update my cart list. So let's say I have a const and I have updated. Let me give it a short name only, or let me increase the screen size. Let me call this as updated cart list, and I'm going to access my current state dot my current cart list dot I'm going to concatenate it. That means with my current list I am going to add a new item, and I'm going to say action dot payload because that's where I have access to my product. Now I'm going to return the updated state. So all the previous item is going to remain as it is, but I'm going to update my cart list, that is this one. There can be more items, so I'm going to keep them as it is, but I'm going to update my cart list with the new updated cart list. Yep, that's it. Let me return. So now if I get here, let me refresh. If I click on add to cart, if you see my state and open this, I have this element. Let me get into my state. After the second step, I have this 2 element. Let me add another one and click here to my third, and I have the third element. And you can see the third element is ID 3 JBL tune 179. So that's how we are going to update. Currently I'm not updating my total. Let me do that. All I have to do is, since I need to update my total every time I add and remove item, I can do that here as well. I am going to say const. I am going to have a total item, and what I can do is I can access the current total, which is my state dot total, and whenever I am going to add any product, it will be an addition. What will be the addition? I am accessing the product right now. So let's say I have action dot payload dot price. Yep. So suppose my current value is 0 and my new product value is 149, so it will be 0 plus 149. So I'm going to have a total. So I'm going to update this total inside my return, and I'm going to pass this total and add a comma. Let me save, get back here, refresh. Everything is, let me get into my state. Basically, if I click on add, go to step 1, inside my cart state my total is 149 and I have one item. If I add another one, Go to step 2. I have 198 because 149 plus 49. So that means my add is now working. So that's how we are going to perform it. So this is the method by which we can perform add. But how about I need to access something, access my cart list or access my total here or inside my cart page. Suppose I have this page is my cart page. How I am going to have my cart list, and instead of these fake products I want my cart list here? Well, we are going to utilize a hook, and all I have to call a use selector. Yep, you heard it right. We are going to have a hook for that to access all our information. Let's say use selector. That is going to be from React Redux, and I need to call it here. I am going to store all my information inside my products. I'm going to remove this now. So whatever the return I'm going to get inside my products. Yep. So I'm going to have this use selector, and inside this I need to pass what information I need to select. So I need to pass a function basically. So I am going to have access to my state, and then I need to return what I need to select. So I'm going to have my state. Inside this we need to select which state. Well, we have our cart state. Remember, we need to select which state we are going to work with, because there can be a location state, there can be other state as well. Remember this is what we need to select. And then inside this we are going to have both the element, which is going to be our cart list and total. We can define which one we need. If we just do this is going to hold information for both, but I need just one, which is my cart list. Let me save. And this is going to store all the element from my cart list, and then we are doing a map. Now if I get back to my home page, yep, if I add 2 or 3 item, go to my Redux, go to third process, get into my state, I have these 3 item and total is 377. Go to my cart, here you can see I have these 3 item. Awesome. One thing I can do right now, I can also access the total. So I can get here, I have access to total. I can say cart state, then inside that total. And one thing I can do right now, I can have a slash and then say total. I also need to add a currency. I can do dollar. Let me save, get back here. You can see 377. If I refresh, it's 0. Get here, add to cart, go. Total is 149. That is this product. So that's how we are going to access information. Remember, whenever we need to call a method, we use dispatch, get access to this dispatch and cover the entire method. Whenever we need to access some information, then we utilize use selector. Now this use selector expect a function that what we need to return. So we have access to this state. We go to state, select the state. Currently we have cart state, we can have location state or any other, and then we specifically return what state we are dealing with. We access the cart state and then total. Okay, this is great. Now what if I need to have a remove option inside my cart card? Yep, I need to have option to remove. For example, if I jump here, if I click this button, I need to call remove and then do something. Let's perform our dispatch function again. So I'm going to first import my remove function basically. That will be from my store / my cart slice. Okay. Another thing I need to import is my hook for my dispatch. So it will be use dispatch. That will be from React Redux. The first thing I need to do is I need to access the dispatch. So let's say dispatch, which will be use dispatch. Awesome. Now if I need to call remove here, I can just have on click. I can have a function which is going to have remove. I need to pass the product information which we are removing. That will work as payload. So I have access to this product information and I have this dispatch that I need to cover it with. So basically we are dispatching the remove function. We are just saying, okay, just execute this. Okay, this is done. Now inside my dispatch, I'm basically doing nothing, to be honest. I'm just doing a console log. Let's say console.log. And here let's say I need to access the state and action to my dispatch as well. Let's say just action. If I get here, refresh, go to home, click on add to cart, go to my cart, get into my console. If I click here, you can see the type is cart/remove and then the payload is the information of that item. So that's how we are going to perform, but let me quickly update the remove as well. What we need to do is we need to have a updated cart list. That should be the and I'm going to access my state. Inside this I'm going to access my cart list. Inside this I'm going to apply a filter method, and here I'm going to access the item from my cart list. Okay, and I am going to perform something. I'm going to check if this id is equals to the action.payload .id. What I mean by this is, here we are accessing our product, right? When we click on this, we are passing the product which we are accessing here. So if I say remove the product 1, I have access to this product 1 .id, that is the ID of that product, and I'm matching it with my current selected ID from my cart list. So I'm checking if I have, suppose in my cart list I have 5 items. I'm selecting the first one, checking if this ID is equals to this. If this is equal, then we are going to keep it. Nope, we need to remove it basically. So all the IDs that are not equal, we are going to keep them. ID which match, we need to remove. Why? We are removing something, right? So suppose I have 5 items, and if I say remove the ID 4, so if I find the ID 4, I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to keep the remaining one. ID 4 should be left out, and the remaining one which are not equal, I'm going to keep them inside my cart. Okay, and I also need to update the total. So I'm going to just copy this, and since we are removing this, that means I'm going to remove the price of the item that I just removed. So I'm going to access the current total, and then I'm going to remove the price of my current item that I just passed. Now something similar will be executed here. I just need to return the updated total and updated cart list. Awesome, let me save, get back here, get here, refresh. If I click on add, if I get into my cart, if I perform remove, okay, this is working fine. Yeah, so that's how we are going to work with our add and remove. Take a pause, try to understand the entire logic what we did. And there are chances that you might get confused with this, but take a pause and try to visualize this. So that's all for this lecture. Now in the next one, we are going to update small thing. For example, when I click on this add, this remove button should appear, so I can have option to remove stuff. I also need to update this number which is currently hard coded. So there are few things that we need to update, and that we are going to do in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now let us try to access this information on our header as well and try to work on the remove button. Let me get here, get inside my header. Now what we need to do? Well, we need to access cart list so we can find its length. Let me get onto the top, import. Well, to access we need selector. So I'm going to use selector. Yep, that will be from React Redux. And next thing I'm going to do, well, I am going to access them. I am going to have const, I'm going to say products. Inside this I'm going to store everything, so I'm going to utilize my use selector. Am I going to get everything directly? Nope, I need to specify, I need to return what I need. So I'm going to have a function and I have access to state directly. So let's say state dot which state. Well, it will be our cart state. Then I need to mention which one inside my cart state, either cart list or total. Well, it's cart list. Now I have access to all the information inside my product. I can get here, utilize this product and say dot length. If I save, get back here, it's 0. If I add, it's 1. If I add, it's 2. Get here, remove. Okay, this is working fine. Now let's close this one. Get into my product card and here let's add a condition. What condition? Well, since I add this product, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my product list, or I should say my cart list, and see if this product is already there. If yes, then I'm going to show a button called remove. If no, then I'm going to show the button add. Well, how we are going to do this? Before doing any of this, I need to access my list, which is my cart list. So again, I'm going to utilize my selector, perform something similar. What I mean? Well, I am going to have my const. I'm going to store everything inside my products, and I'm going to utilize my use selector. So I'm going to get automatically. Nope. If you remember, it's a hook that accesses Redux store state. This hook takes a selector function as an argument. Does this selector is going to work automatically? Well, nope. If you want to read about this, it's here. But nope, it's not going to work automatically. We have access to state about our Redux state. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to return something. I have access to the state. Which state? Well, my cart state. And then I am going to access my cart list inside this. So now I have access to this products. I am going to check if this product is already there in my list or not. I have access to my cart list. Let me call this as cart list only. So it's easy now here inside this. So I have access to my cart list. I can do something similar here as well. Call this as cart list. Call this as cart list. On my cart.js, I can do something similar on my header also. It's better name to read, cart list and my cart list. Yep. Get into my cart page and update this as well. Cart list. Yeah. Okay. Let me get back. So I have access to my cart list. I have access to my current product. Inside this card, I just have one product, right? So I'm going to check if this product is inside my cart list or not every time I load. So I am going to utilize use effect, but I'm going to check if this is inside my cart list or not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a use effect. Yep. So it will be updated every time. And there will be certain dependencies that we are going to add in a while. But what we are going to do is we are going to check if our product is in cart or not. And I'm going to store that in a variable. Let's say product in cart. It will be a true or false. So I'm going to access my cart list. I am going to say find, and then inside this cart list I am going to access the item, and I am going to check if this item.id is equals to the product that we have. So I'm going to access the ID here. I'm going to check if it's equals to this ID. So basically I'm checking ID of this product and ID inside each individual element inside my cart list. If this is true, that means my product is in cart list. I'm going to return a true. I'm going to store this here. Awesome. And then what should I do? Well, I should just say it's there. I should have access to this here. If it's true, then I should show remove button. Otherwise, I should show add to cart. But how to handle this information? Well, since we are inside a component, we can use state. So what I'm going to do, I am going to have a const. It is going to say is cart, or I should say is in cart. Set is in cart, and I am going to utilize use state. By default, this product is not inside my cart, so by default it is false. But here I am going to have a condition that if this variable is true, then just set this to true. Else I can just say set this to false. Awesome. Now here if you see inside this use effect, we have id. So that is going to be one of our dependency. We have also accessed the cart, so that will be one of our dependency. Let's say cart and id. Awesome. So every time this cart is updated, we are going to call this again. So what I mean by this, so if I click on add, okay, I need to import use state first. Get here. Yeah, that's done. So if I get here, now if I click on add to cart, basically behind the scene we updated this again, and now our set in cart is true because our item is now inside our cart. Now I can add a condition here. Simple condition about buttons. I can have if is in cart is true, that means my product is there, then I should have a remove button, otherwise I should have a add button. Well, you heard it right. So if this is true, then remove. Yep, remove, otherwise I have add button. So let me add a remove button as well. On click dispatch, it should remove that product. I have removed. Well, I have removed fortunately. So let me also replace this and have remove. Let me add a class to this button because it's remove. Let me say remove, and I also need to add the CSS for this. So get into my product card .css, scroll down to the bottom, and here let me add it. Don't worry, I will format it later. So let me get here, let me save, get back here. Now you can see this item is in cart, so I have option to remove. Let me get into my Redux, and my state currently holds, and my state currently have messed up because it's older. So let me refresh this. Click. Now let me test this out. Let me get here, and this is our current state. And if I click on add, now you can see I have the option to remove. If I click on to the first step, I have this cart with a total. Get here, I have this item that I can remove. I have option about the details, the length and the total. Get here, add, remove, and everything is working fine. So that's how we are going to deal with the whole process of addition and removal. Now this is something extra that we did. What we did is we accessed our cart list. We then created a component level state, and here we are trying to check if this item, the item that we currently hold, is inside our cart or not. So yeah, we are trying to match the individual item ID and our ID, our product ID. If this is there, I'm going to have a true. If this is true, then we are going to set our state to true, otherwise it will be false. If our state is true, then I should have a remove button. If my state is false, then I should have a add button. That's it. Now let me save. Everything is saved and our app is working fine. Now this extension is important because this gives us a lot of flexibility just to visualize stuff. So suppose, let me refresh. If I add multiple things, you can just scroll down, select the last step, and here you can get into the chart. You will see how this is working, how all of them are here. Now if I remove anyone, get here, you will see this item is gone. If I remove this one, get here, you can see how this is gone. So I also have access to this total information. So that's how things are working behind the scene. That's done. Now in the next one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly discuss about these terms. I know how to define, or I can now say that I can write this everything, this create slice, name, initial state, reducer, everything on my own. But now let's focus on the terms. Because we have three major things. This is where we have our slice, this is where we have our configuration, and this is where we are trying to use everything. So we are accessing our cart list, we are also accessing this dispatch and everything. So in the next one, let us discuss about this term and also deploy it on maybe Netlify or Vercel. Thank you for following, and I see you guys in the next one. Hey there, welcome back. Now let us quickly deploy our project on Netlify or Vercel. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to stop my server. So let me stop that. The next thing I'm going to focus on is open my CMD or terminal inside our shopmate-redux, the folder in which I was working. Now all I have to do is I have to initialize my GitHub. Let's say git init, and we have initialized our git inside this shopmate-redux folder. Remember one point, we also need to create a repository on GitHub. So let's call it as shopmate-redux. Awesome. And remember, we are utilizing toolkit, Redux toolkit for everything. Here, let's create this repository. Also, let me do all the steps that was required. That means git init, add, commit, branch, remote, and push. Now let's work with git add. Another step. Let's say git add. Once that is done, I have to commit. Let's say git commit, and then I need to provide a message. I will say integrated Redux to shopmate. That is done. The next step is to just select my branch, add remote, and then push. So let me select my branch, git branch -m. It is going to be main. Once that is done, I need to select the remote origin since this is unique for each repository. Let me do that. And now I can push to my main. Looks good. Let me get here, and I have all my files. Get inside this. You can see I have my store. Okay, once that is done, all I have to do is get into my Netlify, click on add new site, import an existing project, click on GitHub, and authorization will be done. And then I just need to pass my shopmate redux. Let me pass this repo, and here I have it. Just click on it, and I'm going to select my main branch. Let me deploy the site. That's it. Now remember, one thing I usually recommend is have a new updated title for your page. For example, currently we have home and something like this. I recommend updating it inside your get into pages, home as well as cart. So you can just change it, or we did updated this part so it's easy differentiable with our previous projects. Okay, let me get here to my Netlify. Let me refresh. Okay, this is done, and if I open this one, get here, click on add to cart, get into my cart, remove. Also, for once, let me check to my console and see if there is any console log. Yep, everything is fine. Let me get into my domain and update it and call it as shopmate redux. Maybe -ul. Okay, let's say shopmate -redux for now, or I can call it as redux-ul. It's just on you that what domain name you want. Looks good to me, and things are working fine. So now this is done. Let me close all of this. Now let's talk about all of these terms. So my recommendation is to get onto Redux toolkit page or Redux page. Remember, these two are different. So what happened initially is the state management with the React, with Vue, with Angular was a problem. If you remember the example of prop drilling, we had so many components one after another in a tree. It's impossible to manage all these props, and it was impossible to share props between siblings. So Redux came into picture. Now there were certain issues with Redux, then came with Toolkit. It's basically a way to write Redux logic. For example, if you observe, there are certain places where we imported stuff from Redux Toolkit, and there are certain places where we just imported stuff from React Redux. Well, what is this? And also, if you open your index.js right now, here you can access information that we included provider from React Redux. So basically all of this common stuff like this provider and this use selector, also this use dispatch, everything was from Redux. The thing that we do with slice and the store came from Toolkit. So when we utilize this create slice, things are easy. Now we can work directly with state, we can update the state directly and lot of other stuff. Earlier it was pretty different. So this toolkit give us a pattern how to write all of this, how to export this, how to configure this at one place. And later on to use this information we have the Redux. So we have use selector, use dispatch, then we have this provider, and inside this provider we just need to provide the store. Now all of this is through toolkit. Everything we did here was from Redux. Now if you get here you will get lot of information that what a use selector is. Well, it's basically a hook to read data in React component. Okay, this is easy. Then what is use dispatch? Well, hook to dispatch an action in React component. Now what action? It can be add, it can be removed, whatever the action that we have defined. Then we have a provider that we use to cover our entire app so that all component can talk to the store. What store? Well, the store that we provided. So it is going to hold our state. So all of this come from main Redux. Now if you get here into your toolkit part, you will get to see other things. You will get to see information about your configuration. So you will see that you have configure store, you have a store that you create. Inside this you have reducer. Then you will see information about slice, that it require a initial state value, reducer function to define how the state can be updated, and the name. So if you get here, this is the name, the initial state here. They have this initial state with value 0 and then the reducers. Now this is the best definition to define reducer function, that how the state can be updated. So increment, decrement, increment by amount if they are working with a counter. And then they need to store somewhere, so they have this store, created this state and this counter reducer. So this is a good read. I strongly recommend to jump here on the quick start for toolkit, read about this, and on Redux you should read about the Redux fundamental, the UI and React. So these two are pretty important. That will give you an idea. The next thing, if you want to also explore things, then I recommend the blog from Open Replay. It's a good blog that defines that how Redux flows. So if you see, now you can visualize this because you have idea. So we have a store, we have reducer. Inside this we have multiple reducer function that help us to update a state, and then we also give access to the state. How? If you remember, get here, this is the part that we are trying to export and we are storing it here. So yep, now we have this state. We can access the state inside our component through use selector, and we can also call actions. Well, how? Remember use dispatch. So we utilize dispatcher, and all of these action will be inside our reducer. What I mean by this? Well, if I need to call add, I need to utilize a dispatcher. If I need to call remove, I need to utilize the dispatch thing. So that's how this whole circles move. So you will get a lot of information in this particular blog. So I hope you got the idea what slice is now, what Redux is, what action is, what payload is, what is type, use selector, dispatch, provider, and store. That's all. I hope you got the idea. Main thing is you understand the practical point, right? Main thing is you understood the practical point, right? So that's all, and I see you guys in the next one.